Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Night Owl, a show that we do twice a week where we discuss all the latest in pop culture, news, and reviews. How's it going, Professor?
Going well. How are you doing, Price?
I am doing very, very well. In case the audience didn't notice, Professor R2 is my co host here, and I'm Price of Reason.
Yeah.
And we're happy to be here with you guys. There's definitely a lot of interesting things going on.
Yeah, man, we've been dealing with wild weather in my area. Kind of mentioned it, the other day, but we've been digging ourselves out of almost a foot and a half of snow. In some places, more than a foot and a half of snow, and because it was a blizzard, that means you don't get all of it in one place. So there's parts of our yard where you can still see the grass. But then down at the
Oh,
end of our driveway to get our cars out of our driveway, we had to dig out over 2 feet deep, of snow. It would just piled up there. They still haven't managed to clear all the roads in town yet. They don't have enough they don't have enough plows to get it all done. So, our kids were supposed to go back to school 2 days ago, and it's still canceled tomorrow. So
oh.
it's been wild. I have not ever seen a snowfall quite like this.
Well, you
Not since
have
we've lived here.
Kivo 1961 that says "Good evening from San Diego."
San
What is
Diego, oh my
snow?
goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have any snow.
No snow there. But we've got that wild fire that's going out in the LA area right now over in Palisades.
Right.
So if anybody's out there listening, that you've got loved ones in the area, genuinely, my prayers and thoughts are with you. That's a really terrifying fire that's going on out there.
I was reading. I could be wrong, but I thought I saw an article that Steve Gutenberg from Police Academy is helping.
Yes, I
Move
saw that.
people in
I
the
saw the
fire or
article
something like.
about people, Steve
It's the
Gutenberg
first time
helping
I've
people.
heard of Steve Gutenberg from
You're like,
Police Academy in a long
yeah,
time. He was really good in those movies.
he
I will say
was.
that. Yeah, he carried the. He was the star. I mean,
Oh, he
I don't
carried
want.
those movies, no
Yeah,
question.
right. I mean, he was the guy. I was a kid watching these movies, and I absolutely, I really liked Officer Mahoney. And don't get me wrong, I liked the other guys too. I liked Bubba Smith as Hightower. I like
Mhm.
David Graff as Tackleberry. Uh, there was the blonde lady. I'm trying to remember her name. In any case, I liked her too.
Yeah.
There were certain and Zed and Sweet Chuck and Brian Tochi, I think that was back in the day when you could do an ensemble cast movie that was super diverse and funny and just felt a lot more honest in a way than the kind of weird crap we see today that plays it safe, really.
Yeah. You know what? We've been trying to find some things to watch with the kids. Maybe I'll pull some of those out and watch 'em. Not super kid appropriate, but
Not super
not
kid.
not too bad.
The truth is, though, I hate to say it, I think that for the first Police Academy movie, and I think the first four, I think that I saw all four of them with my dad in the theater. I also don't know that back in those days, you didn't know what was going to be in a movie. You bring your kid and
Oh,
you hope
yeah.
for the best. You know what I mean? I mean, they were relatively harmless, and maybe some of the jokes went above my head. Maybe I didn't fully understand them. Uh, there were some parts that were a bit naughty, and
Yeah. Well,
but that
you had those 1980s PG movies where
right PG
it was,
movies. That's
it's
just
like,
like
"Oh, there's a flash of breasts in this." Well, okay, that was a PG movie back then. Okay,
it
yeah,
was PG,
sure.
and basically they just expected like you have a kid, you're gonna bring him here, sit next to him, and try to talk to him,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a bad policy. I want to tell you from a young age, I saw in the theater. I saw that. I saw Beverly Hills Cop. I saw like a lot of movies, and I don't know. I think that people were just less worried then. If I had a question, I could ask, and not that I even think I had questions. I feel like I understood somehow I picked up on what was happening by myself, and if there were jokes that went above my head, well,
Mhm.
But I preferred those times, really.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that I went to those movies and saw them as a kid, and there
Our
were better
gentleman in the chat
movies.
was asking if I had It says, "Have you made your kids watch Don Bluth?" Yeah, actually, I think we have watched a few of those.
Is that like an
Um,
American Tail or something like
yes,
that?
yeah. So I know that we've seen. I'm certain we've seen A Land Before Time, and then I know we've watched All Dogs Go to Heaven. I don't. I think I watched The Secret of Nim with my son years ago. I don't think my daughter's seen that one. I love that movie, by the way. Secret of Nim is so good. That was what they called a kids movie back in 1982. It was like really deep, and sometimes it was a little disturbing. And there were characters. There was life and death struggles and stuff. It's like that was a kids movie in the 1980s.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
it's an interesting movie. I was actually it's a very long story. I was supposed to be part of a panel of a stream, my friend Gooch invited me to watch and to be a part of his panel. Something came up and at the end I couldn't do it, and I think I may have started to watch the movie, but I don't know if I finished watching it, and something came up and I couldn't do the stream. But you know what? I do like Don Bluth, and I should check that out. He also made that game Dragon's Lair that, if you remember,
Oh, yes.
in
No,
the
yeah.
arcade, it was it was really ahead of its time what they tried to do with Dragon's Lair.
Yes.
I think that ultimately the technology wasn't there, but the animation and what Don Bluth did in Dragon's Lair, I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, so that those were real animation. Those were not done like a
Right, not
typical video
graphic.
game at the time. You know, they weren't pixels and stuff. They were it was actual video playing off of a laser disc. And so what you were
Amazing.
doing whenever you were playing through that is you would basically you would move forward a track or back a track, and if you got it right, you moved forward and you got to see the next little thing that played, and if you didn't get it right, it jumped back to the to the death animation for that particular part of the game. So yeah, those were really interesting. There were a handful of those. Actually, I think he made two. He made the Dragon's Lair games, and then there was another one called Space Ace that was the same style, but you were this scrawny guy who could turn into Space Ace and help save the princess or whatever in space. So they were very similar games. But yeah, I have a few of those on my little emulation game cabinet here in the other room. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let
But
me
yeah,
see if I
Dragon's Lair got translated to dozens of different. Yeah, there was a one for the Nintendo that it was not quite the same game, but they tried.
no. I loved I remember, like, I couldn't as a kid, I was trying to make it work, and it was difficult, but I love the ambition. I love the animation that they did, like, the Don
Oh
Bluth
yeah.
did, and I love the ambition of it. It was people really ahead of their time trying to do something great, and I appreciate the effort, even though going to the arcade and playing it wasn't necessarily a fun experience, but I was kind of mesmerized by the animation. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I played. I used to. I love the arcades. You get to go to the arcade. We had when growing up as a kid, we actually had over in this one little sort of little shopping center. We had the dollar movie theater. So it was a second run movie theater where you could go watch movies for a dollar. And then we had the arcade, and then there was a pizza joint, and then there was a little Greek place. It was the only one in town. And so you would go, your parents would drop you off, give you $10. That'd be enough to see a movie, eat some lunch, and play at the arcade for a little while.
right.
And then you would just hang out there. It was the best. It was so much fun. But yeah, oh yeah, I tried like every arcade game in the arcade until like Street Fighter came out, and then all the other versions of Street Fighter 2, and then there were the Marvel versions of Street Fighter and stuff, and then I played those. That was all I played after that.
Oh, by the way, we have a super chat,
Yeah. Oh.
from, YouTube. It's the Dead Man. He's funny. It's in a Michael Jackson voice. "What's the problem?" See,
What's the
that's actually
problem?
really funny. I was on Midnight's Edge After Dark today, and then we had a
Oh.
conversation where, I basically what happened was I'm trying to remember how this even came up. Oh, okay. So we were watching this trailer for the movie Wolfman and kind of saying that it wasn't so impressive. Maybe we'll look at it a bit later. We were saying that there was something about it that wasn't very impressive, and I said that it all it needed was Michael Jackson to pop up and say, "What's the problem?" And the reason I said it is because he says that in the Thriller video at the end, and nobody remembered it. Like Tom and Nick, they didn't remember that's what he says at the end, and even the audience, like nobody remembered that that's what he says at the end. And then later, what happened was is that I actually went on my own. I paused. I put the show like aside. I went and I quickly looked like on my phone, and he says, "What's the problem?" So I came back and I said, "Nope, I just checked it." He says, "What's the problem?" But then somebody in the chat said, "No, you didn't say that he says what's the problem. You said that he said what's the matter." So then
Okay.
I paused the show, and on my phone, I went and looked back because I wanted to hear what I said, and I actually did say, "What's the problem?" So then I went in the chat, and I'm like, "No, I said, what's the problem?" I find myself, like, arguing with people. I from the first second, I said what Michael Jackson said, and I was 100% right, and all these people are questioning me. So the dead man knew that this annoyed me, I guess, and that's why he put the super chat of the wha I have to give props to the dead man that he's so
Yes.
detail orientated,
There you go.
and it's nice to see, Vex Electronica here. Full disclosure, I invited Vex to join us, but she said that she, was probably gonna be sleepy and in bed, which is, I guess, what she's saying now.
Well,
This is her sleepy time stream.
yes. Well, as I've said before, I'm okay if Vex takes us to bed. That's fine. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, these are exactly the voices that she enjoys listening to as she falls asleep.
oh, babe.
Uh, but I do appreciate it. Hey, listen, hey, even a sleeping listener is a listener, you
There
know?
you go. Yeah. As long as you got that stream open, we're happy.
We'll take it. Yeah. We may have other sleeping listeners.
Yeah.
She
Who
may not
knows?
be the only one. In any case, I guess back to what we were talking about. How did we get to all of this? We really
I don't know.
went through a strange
Same
journey
as we
here.
usually do. Yeah. Just
But
sort
in
of
any,
arrived.
what'd you say?
The same as usual. We just sort of arrived here,
We
and we
sort
have
of
no
arrived here.
idea what happened in between. But yeah.
But what I will say is that, but why don't we look at that video of Mark Zuckerberg? His big announcement today. Let me find it.
Ah, yes. Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark
What an
Zuckerberg.
interesting character Mark Zuckerberg is. Over the years, he's been so weird. Like he goes in front of Congress and he has to sit on a phone book because he's too tiny. So he has to like sit on stuff so he doesn't look like he's like a little child sitting behind the desk. And then he tells them all sorts of stuff about, oh, Facebook and how great it is. And no, we never did anything. We weren't trying to take advantage of kids and all sorts of stuff. And then, he has all these weird things where every year he tries to do some wild thing. So at one point he was what he said he was going to he was only going to eat what he killed himself or grew himself or something.
It seems like I guess some of these people, these billionaires, they have so much money, and each of them kind of lives out his weird billionaire fantasy in a different way. I guess in his case, that's what he does. In Jack Dorsey's case, with he looks like a hobo. Although I don't know why he looks like a hobo, but that's what he does. Uh, I think that actually, out of all these billionaires, the one that usually seems the most grounded, relatively speaking, is actually Elon Musk. I mean, he's eccentric and has his own
Absolutely,
thing.
yeah.
He's eccentric, but his eccentric personality makes a bit more sense to me. Like usually the things that interest him, I can sort of understand it more. I think that somebody like Zuckerberg, you never really know what makes him tick. He's weirder, I guess. I don't know what words I'm looking for. More eccentric, more weird, but um let me share this thing of this announcement that he made today because I think it's very interesting, and I have certainly my thoughts on it. Let's listen to it. Maybe I can do playback speed. I'll make it a little quicker because it sounds like he's babbling for a while. Are you ready?
Well, as long as he doesn't sound like Michael Jackson once he starts talking, we'll be good.
What's the problem?
What's the problem?
Okay.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focused primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, it's not that he's saying things that I disagree with. It's just that there's something a bit annoying about how, for years, he was like a collaborator in this thing. And now, only now, when really the winds have changed, and I think that it's not just because he believes in freedom or he believes in free speech or anything like that. To me, it feels like he understands that in 2 seconds, those dinosaurs he calls Facebook, Instagram, and whatever that Threads thing is, are going to be wiped off the map. You know what I'm saying? Like, Elon Musk with X, you can say whatever you want, but he made that into a platform that people are really engaged and going and doing stuff. And I think that, how many people do you know are going to Facebook?
Oh, very few people are going to Facebook. Honestly, I almost never visit Facebook. I stopped using it years ago. It's just nonstop ads and recommended crap. Every time I go to Facebook, it's like, oh, I got to wade through like 14 or 15 different ads and recommended gobbledygook before I can get to like one post of something that I actually care about. So
Yeah, no,
it's definitely not that. I think Threads is definitely some people seem to want to move to Threads. Of course, now a lot of people who had moved to Threads who thought they were going to be escaping the hellscape that is X, right? That we're going to go to this other platform, and now they're freaking out because they've got this new this Threads platform that they're on, and now they're saying, "Oh no, it's going to be the same way. It's going to turn into another X." You know what? I have to be honest. I think a lot of this is just him going where the wind is blowing, right?
and that's how he's always been. I mean, he's the sort of guy that he knows. I'll give him one thing. He understands where the wind blows. For example, he had Facebook, and then there was Instagram. And Instagram at the time seemed like a much more milder competition to him, but he saw it as a real threat. And at the time, he offered $1 billion or something to buy it, and everybody laughed at him. But really, that extended his kind of power for a long time. The same thing when he bought WhatsApp. He buys things and he does things that are annoying. He's not. Let's put it this way. I don't see him as the same type of visionary as, let's say, an Elon Musk, or when it comes to other stuff, maybe like a Steve Jobs or stuff. He's not that kind of guy. He's more just
Absolutely
he
not.
sees what's happening, and he just does like the bare minimum to capitalize on it. Uh, he's never really led the charge. There's nothing that I feel that he's come up with that's really been even revolutionary. Even Facebook, in my opinion, was kind of like a revamped Friendster, or a retooled MySpace. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't even the first in those spaces. He just had a format that was a little different for it. And
Yeah.
and I think that, he has. I'm not saying he's not an idiot, but I think that that's his main thing, is that he picks up on things that are already there, and kind of thinks of the best way for him to position himself within that marketplace. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, and I also think that a lot of he talks about these changes, like getting rid of the third party fact checkers and moving the moderation team to Texas and all this stuff. Not only is the part of this just trying to chase trends and stuff, trying to stay relevant, but it's also going to be cost saving measures, right? If you don't have to pay fact checkers, that's going to save your company money. If you're going to move your moderation team to Texas, you're going to save a lot of money. So, yeah, there's some of this that I look at as well. These are just some business moves that he's
Business
making.
business decisions. This
Just
isn't.
to, yeah,
I want to make it clear. I do not believe for a second that Mark Zuckerberg woke up in the morning and suddenly felt, wow, I've had a change of heart. I think that
not
Mark
a bit.
Zuckerberg, he does whatever he thinks is the best for him and his businesses, and he understands, like you said, where the wind is blowing. He also understands that he had 4 years of Biden, of doing all this stuff, or even more years of him peddling all these weird things, and implementing whatever recommendations he got from the government and things like that. Even during the elections this time around, when they leaned into him, maybe to do what he did in the past, he actually made a statement at the time saying, in the past I was silent about stuff like that Hunter laptop, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Meaning, he made a statement then, because I think even he knew where the wind was headed. He also saw what the engagement was on X. He saw how many people are downloading that. He knows that it's doing better than Threads. He knows what that Facebook is basically like I don't know if to say like a social network graveyard, but I really don't know how else to describe Facebook. Instagram also. I mean, I'm sure there's people that still want to go there and look at pictures, but I think that today, I don't even know if Instagram is as strong as it was. I feel like both of these platforms of his aren't strong, and neither is Threads.
No,
So
they're
just
not particularly strong. No, I mean Instagram is still fairly popular. And depending on what we see happen with TikTok over the next few weeks, Instagram might be having a lot more people
resurgence.
potentially
Yeah,
jumping back over there instead of doing stuff on
I
TikTok.
mean,
But
The truth is,
of
I've
video.
never liked TikTok. I mean,
No,
I don't wanna
I hated it from the first minute
from the
I
first
tried to
minute.
use it. I hated it.
And really, in a way, because of TikTok, they also introduced this, dumbness into YouTube, even X, and all
Yeah,
these
even
Facebook, and
X.
all these different things. All these other applications suddenly wanted to do the thing where you're watching very short videos that kill your brain cells, and, and it's, like, addictive, you know what I mean? Sometimes I even find myself looking at one, they, like, shove it to you, they make you watch it somehow, and then you flip and you watch another one, and
Yeah, yeah.
if you don't stop yourself, you could be sitting there for a long time just looking at crap.
Oh,
I
yeah. No, they do that on X, so you'll poke a video, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna check that video out," and then it auto plays another one, and
I
then it
don't like
auto
that.
plays another one, and then
I
it auto
really
plays oh, just get
it
away
it
from me.
annoys me, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
same here.
what annoys me the most is that I'm a sucker too. That once I get the video and I just look at it plays the next one, I start then looking at the next one. And maybe the first one was a video that I genuinely wanted to watch, but then, by the time the third or fourth one comes along,
Yeah.
it's like people that argued at a traffic light, or
Yeah, yeah.
some
The
two
second one
people.
is the second one is sort of related to some other stuff you're interested in, so maybe you watch that one, and then you get to the third one, and you're like, "What is this showing me now?" And then the fourth one is like, "Oh god, no." This
No, and then by the time it's like
Yeah,
the fifth one, it's like two like, two, people arguing, like, at a fast food joint
yeah,
or something.
yeah.
"You
You're like,
took my seat, I took your seat. Hey, folks, screw you." It's like, what am I even watching? You know what I mean? Or, like, suddenly two people, like, slapping each other, some bar fight that breaks out or things like that, and it's like, I'm not saying I understand why some people would be amused by such things, but really, I don't need all my time consumed by such nonsense. And then sometimes you have just like people doing a stupid thing, like something that's supposed to be funny, or I don't know, like like they're a couple are saying or doing something that's supposed to be funny, but it doesn't amuse me.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you mean. So, I mean, I would tie everything up that I have to say about Mark Zuckerberg with, yes, I am glad that they are choosing to get rid of the fact checkers. And I hope that that's genuine, that they are ditching those extremely biased fact checkers and some of their algorithms that they were using for this mess. But if you, for even one moment, think that Mark Zuckerberg, who has been one of the most censorious people on the internet. He has colluded with governments to censor people's posts. He has colluded
Absolutely.
with administrations to remove content that they believed was harmful, even though it might have been true. If you believe even for a minute that Mark Zuckerberg has your best interest at heart, you are fooling yourself. He is a snake in the grass. Never trust him.
He is a
Never.
snake in the grass. Listen, I'm not going to say that. Don't get me wrong. Other billionaires can also be snakes and grasses,
No
but there's
question.
something. There's something about his mo that is especially annoying, and
Yeah.
I feel like he's always doing these like strange, pivots. There was also, for example, yeah, he likes to capitalize on things. Like 4 years ago, there was this whole buzz about the metaverse. So he's like, okay, I'm the metaverse now. I invented the metaverse. It's me.
I
It
am the
wasn't
metaverse now.
what?
I am the metaverse now.
Right, exactly, but the thing is he didn't even invent the metaverse, and not only that, like, he heard a buzzword and he wanted you to think that he invented it. That's the type of guy he is. He finds trends and tries to kind of latch onto them.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a survivor. After all these years, the guy that made MySpace, he made some money, and then, like, you never saw him again, that Tom guy or whatever it is. In terms of Facebook, uh, considering that that is a dinosaur social network, the fact that he still has a company and he still has billions, and that there's still some kind of operation, and each time he buys another thing and another thing, uh, I'd say, you know what? I'm gonna say something, it's probably not right. I'm probably gonna say something stupid, but this is what I think. If, let's say, Steve Jobs was like a guy that comes up with ideas with things that don't exist right now, and he wants to put them there, this kind of guy that
Yeah.
he's thinking, what's next? What doesn't exist in the marketplace? What's the next thing that needs to be here? That's Steve Jobs. Elon Musk, in my opinion, is something. It's not exactly, but I think that he has a similar mentality of, finding a white space, finding something that, it doesn't quite exist and he wants to do it. Whereas people like Bill Gates and, I'm sorry, like Mark Zuckerberg are the other way. They're just like sort of opportunists that they kind of look at the marketplace and think, okay,
Absolutely.
this is what's happening here. How do I capitalize on this existing thing? Find the best way to sort of package it and market it and make the most amount of money. Now, don't get me wrong; those people aren't stupid. Neither Zuckerberg nor Gates are stupid. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to know how to. You need to have that kind of feeling of opportunism or whatever you want to call it. And I think that they both have it. But neither of them, to me, seem like true visionaries.
No, they're not. Not at all. No,
They
they're like you said. Opportunist is an excellent
On the
word.
highest
Like,
level on the highest level
yeah,
of opportunists, meaning I'm not knocking the level of opportunism that they know how to do and how much money they've made. You have to be, like, the best at that thing, and they're really good at it. But the same way with Bill Gates, what did he do once he became powerful? He wasn't thinking about how he reinvents the wheel. He was thinking, how do I buy this? How do I buy that? How do I buy this? How do I buy that? So much so that he started having all these kind of antitrust lawsuits and things like that because he was so aggressively just buying everything. And in a way, Mark Zuckerberg, what did he do? He saw something on Instagram, he bought it. He saw people were talking instead of on his, like, whatever it is that he was doing on WhatsApp, he bought it. Those are really, really big networks that he bought.
hmm
Huge. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know in the US until now if people use it or not. I can say that on a more global level, like, WhatsApp is the number one uh, service in the world, like, messaging service in the world is WhatsApp. Maybe here in the US it's not as popular. I don't know. Do you use it?
No.
Well, I will say that I think that outside the US, WhatsApp is really, really strong. It was a good purchase.
No, it's huge outside the U.S. And I do know people in the U.S. that do use it.
I also.
I've never, yeah, it's not something that we've ever really needed, and that we've ever really used. We tried using it for a little while because we had some, we get family with different devices, Android and iOS and stuff, different devices and stuff. So we did try to use that for a little while, but it never really caught on with everybody, and eventually just some other apps ended up replacing it. So yeah, but it's extremely popular outside the US.
And as for Zuckerberg, I saw, like, a lot of people were being nice. I mean, even Elon Musk was like cool and, like, people are supportive and, like, I guess it's better to support him than not support him because having having him sort of align himself with what Trump's doing and what Elon is doing, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, yeah, he is no way, he doesn't seem like anybody that's fighting for any kind of freedom as much as just using his business survival skills and opportunistic instincts. That's fine. People were saying in the chat that he looks like Data. He absolutely looks like Data. Even with curly hair, he always looks like Commander Data.
It a
But
slightly more of a normal flesh tone, but not quite
not
there.
quite. I think that Data actually seems a little more human with his expressions
Yeah.
than Zuckerberg. Uh,
Yeah.
Somebody says here, Whalem03 said, Bill Gates used his antivirus plan for his computer era and switched it to humans. You know
Oh,
what? I actually thought of that during the whole Couve thing that, the virus and the antivirus, it really kind of was reminiscent of that situation.
a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point that Empress and M says that Bill Gates started off buying DOS for 10K.
Oh, yeah, totally screwed the guy over that wrote that
I
too.
I think that
Um,
basically what happened is that IBM he's kind of schmoozed his way. But listen, you have to know how to schmooze your way into those meetings. I think if I remember correctly, schmoozed his way into some business meeting with IBM, and they said we really need an operating system for our computer or something like that. And he's like, "You got it, no problem.
oh, yeah,
5
yeah.
minutes." Yeah, he's
Told
like,
him we've got one. Yeah, we've got
We
an
got
operating
one. We
system
got
for you.
one. We got exactly what you need." Walked out of those offices, but paid, like, very small, modest fee for DOS, and then he just went and said, "You got it. Here's your operating system." He was basically a middleman. His biggest thing that put him, really put him on the map or whatever, helped him launch his career, is him being just a middleman. I mean, say what you want about Steve Jobs, who was slippery in his own way. He even though he took Wozniak as a partner, he wasn't completely honest with him about the money that was coming in. A
Mhm.
lot of slippery maneuvers there. But the one thing I'll say is he had a vision. He wanted a personal computer for people at home. That was his vision. He got up in the morning, he envisioned it, and that's what he wanted. He managed to get Wozniak on board, who he used to work with at Atari, for Noah Bushnell. He got him on board. Was very charismatic. Maybe Wozniak is the brains that was able to engineer a lot of that
Yeah,
stuff.
Wozniak was the engineer, and
Was
he's a brilliant engineer.
brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. If you actually even just go back and look as a technology person, I've looked into a lot of these things over the years, and if you go and you actually look at the original board that he designed for that first Apple computer that they were literally selling out of a garage that didn't even have a case. People had to make their own case. They were like making them out of wood. The design, the layout of the way that he etched everything on there and the way that the chips were placed, it's genius. And
Brilliant.
it's more than genius, it's elegant, which is amazing, right? For just this guy building something out of his garage. It's amazing.
Amazing. I mean,
And so yeah, he was always the engineer, the guy that made the things happen. A lot of people try to dismiss Jobs as just being a salesman, and he was well more than a salesman.
no.
He was an idea man.
He
Yeah, he was a pretty good salesman, but he was an idea guy. He had an idea for, hey, why can't we do this? Why can't we make this happen? What do we need to make that happen?
he
And
he
yeah, they went out and they bought stuff from other people. They went to Xerox Park and they saw their little thing that had a it was this weird thing that you'd move with
mouse.
your hand and then move around, and then it would move a little pointy thing on a screen, and you would click on these little pictures they called icons. And he found this fascinating, just amazing, and just realized immediately, this is the next thing. This is where we're going next, is with this metaphor of the pointer and the files and everything. And yeah, he did buy that off of Xerox Park, but Xerox Park wasn't doing anything with it. They
Right.
turned it into something amazing.
He there I There's a lot that could be said. He was a complicated man, Steve Jobs. There's negative things you can say about him, and you can also
Absolutely.
say that he wasn't the engineer. I
Yeah.
can't take away from him the fact that he envisioned in his mind, he wanted the personal computer. When he saw something, like you said, they didn't even know what they were doing with that. He already knew what to do with it.
Mhm.
And he would just sit there and think, it's like what I told you, the white space. He would look at the industry, the technology or things like that, and he'd say to himself, this thing doesn't exist. How do we make this thing that doesn't exist? And I think that was always his mindset. Not, yes, in some cases, maybe he did buy companies, maybe he did do stuff, but there was always this feeling of a greater vision. And as much as he was a good salesman, I do think he had the vision.
He did. Yeah, he
I
absolutely did. Yeah.
he, and Bill Gates never gave me that impression. Bill Gates, people said he's a software merchant. Absolutely, I think that that's something like that.
Mhm.
Just he had a different. He's a good businessman, Bill Gates. I won't lie. He's a good businessman. Visionary, not really.
Mm-mm.
Good businessman, yes. And I feel like Mark Zuckerberg, I would say that about him as well.
Yeah. Oh, Gates had a number of different visions for the future. It's gonna be this, and we're gonna have this portable computer, and we're gonna use your Windows is gonna be in every device, and they all were like disasters. He basically, the only thing that kept that company afloat for years was the fact that they had managed to get Office basically as the standard for corporations all over the world, as well as Windows as the basis for that, because they had built up such a corporate base of people who were bought into licensing Windows and then especially Office. That's where they made their billions. They did not make it on revolutionary products. They made it on corporate,
The
corporate welfare,
the
corporate
dead
money. That
the
was
dead
it.
man's
Corporate contracts.
the dead man says Woz was the Paul and Jobs was the John. I accept that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Reasonable.
that's a fair assessment. That when you look at the Beatles, I think that most people probably will tell you, and I think that 99% of the people will tell you this. Paul McCartney is the best musician in that band on
Yeah.
paper. He played the most instruments. He played them the most professionally. His singing was probably he had the most range of what he could do with his voice in that band. There's a lot of compliments you can give Paul McCartney. And also, when they recorded, even though George Martin is the producer, many times people kind of refer to Paul McCartney as a sort of secondary producer, sort of the right hand man producer to George Martin. That's how important Paul McCartney is in that band. And even if you look at like old footage that I've seen before, even from the maybe Let It Be sessions or Abbey Road or whatever it was, you see that they're some rehearsal, and as much as him and John bicker, there's something with voices that needs to be worked out. And John really, with a straight face, goes and says, "Okay, Paul, what do we do? What do we do here with these voices?" And Paul's like, "Oh, I'll do this and I'll do that." And John, with all of his like bravado, is listening to Paul because Paul knows
Mhm.
music and he knows that he's good at that. You know what I'm saying? Now, with
Mhm.
all of that being said, Paul McCartney, the second he left the Beatles, all he does is like this kind of cheesy stuff. I mean, it's
Mhm.
quality cheesy stuff, but let's be honest, it's very cheesy stuff.
Yeah.
John Lennon brought this kind of more of an edge, more
Yeah.
of like this leader, more of this kind of pushing the envelope and doing stuff and whatever. And yeah, John Lennon had that thing, but without Paul McCartney, he couldn't have gotten to where he got, and without John, he couldn't have gotten wherever he got. And I think that Woz and Jobs, at least in the early days, you needed both of them.
Empress in him says, "Not the Beatles again." And I would say, "Hey, at least we're not talking about Genesis." Okay, so
I'm going to say something about Genesis,
Oh,
and I'll
no,
say
God, no.
no. You know what? I want to tell you. I saw this video. I guess Phil Collins was sitting next to a drum set, and somebody was showing him drums and talking to him. Man, that guy looks like he's not in good health, and it actually made me quite sad. It made me quite sad and made me feel old.
Yes.
I know that he's no spring chicken, Phil Collins, but man, over the past like 5 to 10 years, it looks like he aged like 50 years. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
kind of I
Oh,
think I was
man.
kind of bummed out about it. And the final comment, and then about the Beatles, that I'll move on. Somebody says "Live and Let Die" was for a Bond movie, but I think it's awesome. The thing with "Live and Let Die" is that I feel like, as opposed to a lot of these other ballads that he kept, producing over and over again since he left the Beatles, the same kind of more, I don't know if to say schmaltzy or a little bit of cheese. I think that with Live and Let Die, they told him, listen, this is a Bond movie. There has to be some action here in the song. It can't just be you doing a ballad. And really, it's sort of a compromise because he does a little bit of his ballading, but he knows that at some point the song has to become like more exciting because he's doing some kind of Bond, song. So it kind of pushed him out of his comfort zone to do something a little different, and that's why I think that's one of his better solo songs.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and James Caserta says John was the spiritual anchor. I agree with that.
Yeah, he was the soul, he was the inspiration, the exploration of trying different and new things. Paul was an incredible musician. He could play lots of different instruments. He, had mastered them in a lot of ways and could really kind of think through all the different musical parts at once. Harrison was inspired. He had some really interesting ideas and things that he wanted to try. And then you had Ringo, who is, as a musician, maybe not as multi-talented as some of the others, maybe not as so much soul or inspiration, but he was an incredibly talented drummer, and provided that really solid beat for all the songs. So yeah.
For sure. I think Ringo Starr is very important. Pyromancer says the engineer knows the computer will get smaller and smaller. The idea guy comes along and says we can make these into personal computers right now and sell them to people for their home. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's good when you have both of these type of people there. And yeah, I think that Steve Jobs and Wozniak together were a great team until today. And I've probably mentioned it a number of times on the Night Owl. One of the worst business deals, not worst business deals, one of the biggest missed opportunities in business ever was that they both work for Noah Bushnell at Atari, the owner of Atari, who then sold it. But at that time, they worked for Noah Bushnell, and they wanted to do this personal computer thing. And Steve Jobs, being the kind of schmoozer that he is, he walked into Noah Bushnell's office to have a meeting with him, and he said to him, "Listen." Because him and Woz worked for Noah as sort of independent contractors. So they told him, "Listen, we're going to do something. We're doing something called the personal computer, and we're opening a company called Apple. And if you give us $50,000, you will own a third of Apple." And Noah Bushnell said, "That is the dumbest idea I ever heard. Get out of my office." And that is probably the worst business decision maybe in the history of business. Because Noah Bushnell certainly had the money at that time. Atari was riding high, even with inflation, even with everything, even with 2025 inflation. $50,000 is something that Noah Bushnell had, and he already knew that they were worth something because they were doing games for him. So they weren't idiots. I don't think that he thought that they were dumb. No, being able to pick up on people that are intelligent, he must have known that they weren't stupid. Really, I think that it was like it was small change for the guy.
Yeah.
He said it. I mean, later I saw interviews with him, and he admits that this was a mistake. What can he do? I mean, he's at least a pretty good sport about it. But yeah, that would have been like the best
Yeah.
$50,000 you could
Yeah.
invest.
Yeah. Well, and two, so Wozniak actually, if I remember correctly, Wozniak was not actually working for Atari and for Bushnell. He just helped. He had befriended Jobs and was helping him out with this engineering task. I believe they had given engineers, they were going to give out bonuses for each chip they could eliminate from the computer. Like if
He didn't work
they
with
would build
Jobs.
out a board, and they for an arcade game. And so there was like a bounty program where they were like going to give out like hundreds of dollars for every chip you would eliminate from that. At the time, right before he left to join Apple, Wozniak was actually at Hewlett Packard. And so he would have, when he was designing the Apple computer, they technically would have gotten first dibs on it if he had made it because he was under contract with them, and then he left so he could build it himself. So
S-
yeah, he was working with Woz was working with Jobs, I think, but he was not actually an employer or employed by Bushnell. But yeah, there was the whole thing where
Well,
there
the
was
game
some
Breakout was
deals.
basically the designer of the game is considered Noah Bushnell, Steve Bristow, and Steve Wozniak. I mean, he's
Yeah,
listed on it. I don't know exactly what happened there, or if Jobs just secretly brought him, or how it all worked.
yeah,
But the bottom line is the game Breakout. That was technically, if you look at the names involved, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak are credited with that one, I
yeah.
believe.
I just remember that because it was Jobs that was paid the bonus for what they did, and
But
he didn't
Wozniak did the work.
and he didn't tell Woz how much of a bonus it was, and only
Right,
paid him
right.
like
I
a
knew there
third
was
of what he was
something.
supposed to give him.
I knew there was something like that. Listen, Steve Jobs would, like I said, he was a slippery and complicated guy, but he also, I feel like he had a vision, and at the end of the day, I can't take that away from him. But yeah, it seems like he pulled a fast one
Yeah,
on Wozniak,
yeah.
even at Atari. So maybe Noah Bushnell didn't know that Woz was doing it. He didn't know, but he was involved. I just don't know if he knew about it. But Steve Jobs, he absolutely knew who he was, and I'm
Oh,
still
yeah.
going to tell you
Yeah,
that $50,000 would not have been an insane amount of money for Noah Bushnell to invest in some other thing.
absolutely not. No, not at the time. You had Atari at the time was riding high. They were making incredible amounts of money at the time
Incredible, and
during the first arcade boom. So yeah.
really the reason why Atari didn't continue to grow is they sold. What company was it? Isn't it like a studio, like a Warner Brother something? Who bought Atari? Was it
Oh
Warner?
gosh, it's swapped hands so many times. I don't know who actually owns Atari now.
But I think that that Atari was initially owned. First of all, Noah Bushnell owned it, but then
Yeah.
I believe that Warner Brothers
Yeah, I
bought
think
it.
it moved to Warner. Let me look. Yeah, Warner Communications from 1976 to 1990 was the parent company, and then Time Warner after they changed hands.
Right,
Now and then it was sold off to a handful of other companies after that.
Not to go too much into a side conversation here, but what happened with Atari is that actually Noah Bushnell, and he was a visionary. I do have a lot of respect for him
Yeah.
because when it comes to video game consoles, I really feel he didn't invent it. There were a few people that did some stuff, but I really feel like he understood how to make it a viable commercial product that everybody would buy, and he did a really great job with it for its time. Now, the problem is this is what I understand is that he kept thinking to himself, okay, this console, this Atari 2600 is doing really well. Everybody's buying it all over the world. It's not like today that there's different competitors or something like that. You had to have an Atari. That was it. Yes, they had some weird like ColecoVision or things like that, but none of those were serious competitors in my opinion. Atari was the real deal. That was the one that everybody had, and I think that he was saying, listen, we're not going to be able to continue to ride the success of the Atari forever. We need another console. We need the next generation. And he was really pushing on more generations, on better technology, better games. And that's what interested him. But once he sold out to Warner Brothers for an insane amount of money, probably, from what I remember, I
Mhm.
think that they started becoming this big. Warner Brothers was, they didn't understand this world. There were a bunch of bureaucrats there, and they didn't understand this industry, and they didn't have the vision that Noah Bushnell had. And basically, that's why there was no real advancement. They just said, "Well, the 2600 is working. Let's just do more and more and more." And then one day, they suddenly found themselves that's it. It had run its course.
Yep.
Only when Nintendo came along. I mean, in Japan, they didn't have these problems. They just did the Famicom there. They called it the Nintendo Entertainment System in the US. And they kind of tricked their way into the marketplace because there was such a backlash against that whole collapse of the gaming market
Yeah,
that
yeah. People thought that home gaming was dead
was dead.
after the Atari just kind of collapsed, and there were no other real heir apparent, consoles or anything coming in until the NES sort of snuck into the market over here. Yeah.
I mean, what happened is that the only way that the NES could actually sneak into the marketplace is because of this robot.
Mhm.
Basically, they said to themselves that they were told that the Japanese company that people in America, these stores and this marketplace is not going to embrace another gaming console. So the reason why it looks different, the Nintendo Entertainment System here than in Japan, is because they wanted it to look like a VCR. That's why the Nintendo Entertainment System is this like gray thing that you open the flap and you put the game in,
Mhm.
because they said, let's think what they have now and they feel comfortable with. This isn't a gaming system. This is like a VCR. You put the game in, you press down on it. And in order to get it into toy stores, these stores didn't want it from their bad experiences with Atari. So they said,
Mhm.
well, this is a Nintendo Entertainment System. It's not just a gaming system. There's a robot here. The robot, you're controlling a robot with this gray box,
Yeah.
and somehow they suckered them. At the end of the day, initially, if you bought the first set of Nintendos, you used to get this robot and a
Yep.
game. I think that from I knew one guy that had it. I think I went to his place. I'm trying to think if maybe we once played with that stupid robot. Aside from that, nobody cared about it. It was just it was a Trojan horse. This robot that you're looking at is one of the biggest technological Trojan horses of all time.
Yeah. They redesigned the console for North America partly to make it look less like a toy.
Right.
And so, they wanted it to look a little bit more serious. They wanted it to have, more of a sleek design rather than sort of this toy-like design of the Famicom. And it was kind of amusing because then they ended up basically having to sell it as a toy. to get to get stores
Right.
to start picking it up.
I
So it
think
was
that the
kind of fascinating that this flip-flop of how they managed to get things into the stores.
I think
Yeah.
one of the main things that, am I still sharing
Yeah.
this? Okay, yeah, okay, cool. I think that one of the main things that they wanted more than anything is that the original Atari, you had a cartridge and you stuck it like you could see how you're sticking into the machine. The Famicom, which is the original Nintendo in Japan, had the same visual it was smaller, but that was the same idea. You take a cartridge and you stick it in like that. And I think that part of the reason they wanted this sleek thing, like you said, this different design, is maybe could be some of it a toy, but also because they didn't want anybody to think, oh, it's the new Atari, it's another Atari. They didn't want
Yeah.
anybody thinking about that at all. It's
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
they
Well,
wanted it to people to think that it's like a VCR.
yeah,
This
well,
was
they went to that even in the naming of the Nintendo. In the US, it was the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's not a console, it's not a video game, it's an entertainment system. The
entertainment system. It's
the
brilliant.
the the console part was referred to as the control deck. They did not call them cartridges. They were game packs, not video games, right? They
Right,
were game.
ROMs, or
And
today you
so
call them ROMs.
yeah, yeah, so but they and so yeah, it was they made sure, and it's a zapper. It's not the gun. It's not the light gun. It's a zapper, right? So yeah, they really did a lot with branding to make it sound
Great work,
like something very different from the Atari because they didn't want anybody thinking it was an Atari.
and I had the real thing. This Zapper, the gray one, that's the one I had. Because later they're like, it can't be gray because people will think it's a gun and it has to be orange. So that's why they changed it to that kind
Yeah.
of silly orange one. I didn't have no orange. I had the gray one, the real deal. That's what I had.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm still proud of that.
No.
Somebody was writing about the Power Glove.
Oh, I still have mine. It's literally in a closet about 10 feet from me here. I
You have a
still have
Power
my
Glove?
yes, I still have it. Yep.
You know what? That's another one. I had a friend. I think it's probably the same one with the robot. My friend was the type of guy that kid or whatever, that once something came out new, especially in this Nintendo thing, he had to have it, and his parents like probably wouldn't leave them alone
Yeah.
until they got it. For me, I was more focused on the games. The Power Glove, I didn't really know what to do with it. That
Yeah.
robot didn't interest me. For
Yeah.
me, I just wanted to make sure I had the newest games. Like if
Well,
there was Zelda and Zelda
oh
2
yeah.
and Super Mario 2 and 3, that I had to have those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, growing up, we were pretty poor, and so I did not actually get an NES. I finally got an NES only about a year and a half before the Super Nintendo came out. And so for me, I mean, I was playing my friends for years, whatever. But the Power Glove, the reason I have one, and the reason it's still in good shape and still has all the parts and everything, is that when that came out, it was this huge thing. Remember, there was the movie The Wizard, right? And
With Kevin from the Wonder Years with Fred
yes,
Savage.
yes, it's Fred Savage and everything, and so they had introduced the Power Glove, and everyone thought it was this cool thing. Oh, you're gonna have the Power Glove. Oh, you're gonna be part of the game. Whatever. I mean, it was actually a terrible controller. There were only a handful of games it actually worked with, and you had to
It
set
was a
up this
wonderful
weird.
idea. I really appreciate the
Yeah.
idea, but yeah.
Yeah, you had to set up this weird little sensor bar around your TV, and it was very weird. But the reason I have one is because it was bought on clearance when they just were trying to get rid of them. So it were originally what it said, like $75 or whatever. I guarantee you, my mother probably didn't pay more than $15 for that
Do
thing.
you still have it in the box, or do you have it like
Well, I mean, it's been unpacked. It was played with, but I still have that. It came in a big like soft case
uh,
thing, so I still have that with probably with all the manuals and everything else
you
with it.
should hold
Yeah.
on to it. It's a
Oh
piece of
yeah.
history, a piece of
Yeah.
gaming history.
It definitely is.
And it was ambitious, like a few people in the chat are saying. It was ahead of its time for sure.
It was. It was.
Uh,
Yeah.
NES. Let's see. So here, and you can see in the pictures, the bottom one was the Famicom, which was
Yeah.
exactly it was a more compact Atari, but the idea was you stick the games in a noticeable way. You stick them in there, whereas the American version was like that VCR. They really wanted to give, even with those ridges there, really wanted to give that VCR feeling.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm considering telling you a story of how I got my first Nintendo Entertainment System. This is a really dumb story, but I'm going to tell it to you
Go
anyways.
for it.
I feel bad. Maybe I shouldn't tell it, but I don't know. What should I do?
Go for it. What else
All
we
right.
got?
So I believe I went to, my parents, and I said that I wanted a Nintendo Entertainment System. And initially, the first instinct was they weren't in a rush to buy it for me. And then I said to myself that I had to find a way to come up with money to buy to buy the console. This is the strangest story. It's like one of those things that you wish in the universe, and like the universe gives back to you. So I was at a park playing, and as I was walking in this park, there was a wallet on the floor, like a pink wallet. And I picked up the pink wallet and I looked inside, and there was, I think, like $100 in there. Are you with me?
Woo!
Now
That's some money.
imagine you're a little kid and you just found a wallet with $100. Like, I don't know, probably today, like you can only buy a sandwich with it. But at the time, I think that's exactly what I needed in order to get the Nintendo Entertainment System. Like, it's as if I asked to get the money and the money landed there. Now, what happened is that I came home and I said, "Hey, I found this wallet and it has $100 in it." And I was told at home, "Well, we want to find out who the wallet belongs to because somebody lost those $100, so we're going to return those $100 to that person." So I said, "Okay," but there was just one problem. Do you know what the problem was, Professor? Professor, are you there? Either I'm gone or the professor is gone. I don't know what happened. Professor. Oh, well. Oh, he is gone. I hope it's not me. Now I don't know if I'm living in the Matrix or he's living in the Matrix. Wait, I think he's back. I think he's coming back. Professor, are you there? This is so strange. You're on mute. Professor, I think you're on mute. Professor is gone. Yeah. Anyhow,
My internet dropped out right in the middle of your story.
right, and then I'm, like, asking, "Are you with me?" And, like, you're gone.
No,
So, I didn't know if I dropped or you dropped, but
no, it
basically,
was my internet just
my
blanked out for a minute, and I
I
had to back out and come
I
back in.
was told that we have to find who the people are, who the wallet belongs to, but there was just one problem. And this is really, I mean, I don't think in the history of wallets this has ever happened. It was a wallet. I kid you not. It was a wallet that all it had in there was $100 and nothing else. There was no ID. There was nothing. You couldn't return that to anybody, even if you wanted to. All it was a pink wallet with $100 in it. I still don't know. It's like, how did that wallet arrive there? And I found it. It was just, and I needed that amount of money for the Nintendo Entertainment System. In a way, it was, it was kind. I don't want to say miracle,
It was
but
meant
imagine you're a
to
kid.
be.
Imagine you're a kid. There's really nothing better that can happen than this story here. So yeah, and then nobody had anything to say, and I got the Nintendo Entertainment System. That's how I got the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Way I Lamb 03 says it was his wallet and he was mad. Like, damn it, that was my pink wallet. You son of a bitch.
Oh,
No,
that's why you left the
that's it.
stream, right?
That's why I left the stream.
Uh, that would be funny. That would be
Finally
funny if it
found
was
that.
your wallet.
I
But
finally found that SOB that took my $100.
but yeah, I mean, it's a strange story, but sometimes once in a blue moon something like that happens. All I can say is, if there was ever an argument for those kind of the secret, oh, you manifested and then it arrives, that was one of those cases.
Yep.
So that's how
funny.
I got the Nintendo Entertainment System. Why were we talking about the Nintendo Entertainment
We
System
were talking
again?
about Atari, and
Steve
before
Jobs,
that, it was
Zuckerberg.
Steve
Zuckerberg is
Jobs,
more like Gates.
Zuckerberg.
Gates
Yeah,
is annoying. Zuckerberg is annoying too.
we
Okay,
got there one way or another.
we
Yeah,
brought it full circle.
all the way
The
back.
bottom line is that Mark Zuckerberg is kind of annoying. he's doing something that on the surface isn't bad, but it doesn't make us really like him, or me like him any more. Which, like, I mean, I don't sit around. I don't have like a dartboard. I don't hate him, but I don't really think very highly of him either. He's just whatever. I don't have anything especially good to say about him.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's
while I'm happy that they've decided to make this decision, that Zuckerberg is going to make this decision, say, there's going to be less censorship, there's going to be fewer of these independent fact checkers who are just terminally biased. I mean, it's impossible for them to not be biased. I know there's people freaking out over this. This is amazing. It's going to be the best thing. I can't believe finally, people are starting to make the right decisions. He's not doing this for you. All right. This is a business decision. It's a calculated move. And don't think he's suddenly on your side now just because Zuckerberg is going to do something that seems like perhaps maybe is going to benefit free speech. He's not doing it because he has taking some sort of moral stand
no,
on
he's
this,
not.
right? It's a business decision, pure and simple.
He grew his hair out so it'll look more like a regular person and less like Commander Data, but I don't buy it.
Yep.
And Maroxter said, "Sorry, Sean. Did I say a bad word? I don't think I did, but okay."
I said son of a bitch. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
sorry,
Sorry.
Sean. Yeah. Anyhow, I think that was a good description of the whole event, all the events with Mark Zuckerberg. But on our thumbnail, I also mentioned that I think that Disney is desperate with Star Wars, and the reason for this, I don't know if you noticed. Did you see the Star Wars thing happening today?
I didn't see anything in the news. I did watch the latest episode of that new show that they're making, but yeah,
So we'll get to that in just a second. But
yeah,
here's one of those kind of let me see if I can find it. Basically, there was an article. Let's see for a second if I can
yeah.
share this. There was an article that people were quoting that James Mangold, not that I think much of this movie web, but
Oh goodness.
James Mangold, basically, he was talking about his Star Wars movie that, between you and me, until there's a real movie in a theater that
Nope.
somebody's actually showing,
Until
I'll
there's a
believe it when I
until
see
there's
it.
a full blown trailer, I'm not trusting that it's ever
Not
coming out.
trusting anything. And then so what he discusses is, he says something about that he's tired of having to deal with Star Wars lore. So this is what he says. The Star Wars movie would be taking place 25,000 years before any known Star Wars movies take place. It's an area and a playground that I've always wanted to explore and that I was inspired by as a teenager. I'm not that interested in being handcuffed by so much lore at this point, and it's almost immovable, and you can't please anybody. But I'm so sick of these prequels already. It's such a cop out. I don't want to know what happened 25,000 years ago. Just tell me what happens after Return of the Jedi. And I don't consider those crappy sequel movies anything. Just
Mm.
let's pretend those sequels don't exist. Move forward 100 years and show maybe a new story. Even if it's a few hundred years, maybe now the Jedi really are some kind of myth. And people, 500 years in the future, it's some kind of ancient thing that people talk about, but people don't even know how real or what it is. The more kind of you distance yourself and you make it in the past, you make it some ancient myth. And then maybe a new generation of people in a future that looks even completely different, or has doesn't fully resemble the one that we knew from our era of Star Wars, some other futuristic thing where somebody suddenly rediscovers the Force for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I don't know what would do it, if it would be like a descendant of something or who knows what. Maybe somebody discovers the Force, and suddenly we see for the first time, how the dark side and manifests itself, things like that. I'm not saying that this is my dream, but I'm saying that would probably be one of the only ways to put all this other crap behind us and distance ourselves. The 25,000 years before really just seems like dumb to me. It annoys me. I don't know why. It annoys me.
Yeah, I was a huge Star Wars fan as a kid. This is my first big fandom. I loved Star Wars. I had action figures. Still got the action figures. They're sitting up right next to my Power Glove in my Darth Vader head that you put all the figures in. Uh, I absolutely loved these films. Watched them on repeat as a kid. It was the only thing I cared about. I love Star Wars, and Disney has completely ruined it for me. I was watching Skeleton Crew, not because I knew I was gonna get any enjoyment out of it, but because I thought I might need to talk about it on a panel at some point this week, right? Uh, there's nothing about it that has anything to do with what I grew up with and what I loved and what I enjoy. Now
What,
they keep
Skeleton
trying
Crew?
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a
Yeah,
second because I
but
watched
but
today's episode, by the way.
but Disney has done the same thing with everything that they have done with Star Wars so far. They just crap on the legacy of the show. The legacy of the films. They want to try and tell their own stories with all sorts of agendas crammed into them. They want to keep going back with more and more prequels and telling stories. Oh, we're gonna because we don't want to be in canon. We don't want to have to fight with the chuds about whether or not this character was born yet or not. Like they don't. That's the thing is that when you're talking about Star Wars and the epic universe that is Star Wars, the fans, the real fans that were into these films and loved these films got into the expanded universe in the 1990s. Did you read any of the expanded universe stuff in the 90s, Price?
Are you referring to the Timothy Zahn
There's
trilogy?
that was really what kicked off that expanded universe. Yeah,
I did read, I think it was Heir to the
Heir to the
yeah,
Empire.
yeah, Heir to
Yep.
the Empire. I think I read that one.
Yeah, there was Heir to the Empire, and the trilogy was Heir to the Empire, Dark Force, and
I don't
the
even know if I
last
read the other two. I think I read Heir to
um,
the Empire.
yeah. So that was really what sort of relaunched Star Wars is basically a dead brand at that point. And those really took off. And then you had a number of other like there were some multimedia initiatives that they got going later in the 90s. One was Shadow of the Empire, which actually it had a book and it had a video game. It even had a soundtrack that came out. There was a whole they did a whole bunch of different stuff together, sort of this big multimedia launch. And it was incredibly popular. And so we originally just had these three movies, but then you had all these different books that while they weren't canon, all existed in this same world and shared different threads, different characters, and the
For
characters
sure.
evolved and changed throughout that. And so it's fascinating that you had all of these different creators working with just a handful of people at Lucasfilm who are, okaying some stuff, saying, "Yeah, that works. It doesn't mess with this. Make sure, okay, if you're going to write your book at this time, we have this other book that's come out, and this character is going to go through this change, and then there's all of this other stuff that they managed to do that with all these different authors through all these books and media and comics and video games and all sorts of stuff. They managed to have this entangled, fascinating universe that all sort of tied together in this extended universe. And then now it's just like, if I want to tell a story, I don't want to have to deal with any other movies that are out there. I don't want to be part of that universe. I want to write my own story. And it's so dumb. It's it, it's supposed to be this epic universe where all of these different things tie together, and that doesn't mean that you have to tell every story about the Skywalkers. That's not the case. So far, of everything Disney has done, I think the best stories they've told had nothing to do with the Skywalkers at all,
The
right?
only one is somewhat
But
acceptable is like Rogue One, and
so is Rogue One.
even that was a flawed movie. That's what people
Yeah.
always forget. If I took away the third act, which was reshot by Tony Gilroy, if I just showed you the first two acts of Rogue One, it has so many problems.
Oh,
It is
yeah,
a movie with a
it's
lot of
not
problems.
perfect. It's not perfect at all, but it still feels like it belongs in that universe of
Sort of,
Star Wars. It
because there was a moment, maybe in the second act of Rogue One, that I was sitting in the theater, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, "Man, this movie has a lot of issues." I had never, even in the prequels with George Lucas, I knew that there were issues, but I still was immersed and sort of enjoyed them for whatever they were. With Rogue One, there were genuinely parts that, like, I was surprised made it into the movie the way I was watching it, and I was somewhere in the second act really thinking to myself, "Man, this is kind of a disaster." And then the third act kicks in, which I then only later learned was a reshoot, that they had to completely redo that third act. That third act with the Battle of Scarif ends it on a really high note. So you walk out of it there thinking, "Wow, that was kind of an uneven movie." It starts off somewhat interesting, huge issues in the second act, and sort of a bounce back into the third. Something very rare. I rarely see a movie that has so much inconsistency in quality in one movie. But that's how I feel about Rogue One. But you know
yeah,
what? Because of the Battle of Scarif, because of that there's something there that it looks like it's kind of honoring whatever the original trilogy is. I can somehow give it a pass. But if you now made that movie disappear, if you told me the price of Disney never buying it and other people that are competent running Star Wars is that I have to part from Rogue One, I would do that without thinking twice. I'll give you Rogue One any day of the week. You can take it and make it disappear. I don't care.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean,
not that
if
important.
if everything Disney could just disappear and we didn't get any of the prequels, we didn't get the Acolyte, we didn't get all that other garbage, I would gladly give up. I would gladly give up the few things that I have enjoyed that Disney has made to eliminate all of the other trash.
Exactly.
So yeah, Rogue One
Absolutely.
can go, Andor can go. We'll we'll live without those things if we can not have to suffer through the rest. But yeah,
Absolutely.
you gotta got something up there from Barbara you wanted to read.
Yes, and I think we have a super chat, but I'll get to the super chat in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a
The
second.
thing with Barbara that I want to read, I saw Star Wars in the theater in 1977. I was 9, and it had a huge impact on me. Carrie Fisher was my hero at age 9, and she still was my hero at age 49. What they did to Princess Leia was terrible. Absolutely. That they made her, they didn't want her to be a princess. She's a general, and they just have her
Yeah.
slapping Poe. And flying around space. It was so disrespectful, really.
And then, they completely missed out on
The top.
the opportunity to bring all those characters together again. They start killing them off in the very first, sequel movie, and then they even it's like, who wrote this stuff? Who wrote this stuff? They have her and Han together. They haven't seen each other for a while and they're talking to each other. There is absolutely none of the wit and the banter, anything that was there in their interactions in the original films. She says some stuff to him, whatever, and wishes him luck and, I still care about you, whatever. And he doesn't reply, I know. Right. That shows you the people that made that new movie, that there was nothing that they cared about in the old films except just completely lifting the plot so they didn't have to write a new movie. It was
Absolutely.
embarrassing. It was embarrassingly bad. They did not understand the characters at all.
No, they didn't even try to understand them. We have a few super chats. The Dead Man,
Yes.
9.99. I also wanted to thank you for your review of A Complete Unknown. That's the Bob Dylan biopic. I
Yes.
think Bob Dylan is the best singer slash songwriter of our time, although everyone who covers Dylan does it better. Yeah, I mean, I think that the strength of Bob Dylan is really his songwriting capabilities. There's so many artists that then covered his songs, and you could tell what a great songwriter he is just by seeing the covers of his music. When it comes to his own voice, it's sort of an acquired taste. I think that when he was young, and this is just my theory, that he didn't smoke 70 cigarettes a day, I think that he was somehow able, even then, you wouldn't think that he's like a crooner or something, but he had kind of his own sort of a strange kind of style that he sings. And I think that without the 7,000 cigarettes a day, I think it was fine. It's just that when you don't have the best singing voice to begin with, and then you grow older and like you're smoking all day and all night, I think that it probably didn't help him, and that's why I think his voice over time, which wasn't spectacular, but it kind of deteriorated. He didn't do himself many favors, but still, a lot of respect to him. He's influenced so many other artists. If you today want to learn how to write songs, there's always a lot that you can look at his songwriting capabilities and be impressed with, even if you don't necessarily love listening to him perform the songs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did that review, and it's just a funny story. And I learned something from it. I learn all the time from stuff, but I did a review. Uh, did you see? Did you happen to catch my review for this thing?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Oh, was it okay? I don't even
Yeah.
know.
No, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was
I
interesting.
I try not to make them too long, and I just kind of focus on whatever seems interesting to talk about. Sometimes you see like reviews that are very, and it's fine if they're very long, but I try to keep mine kind of brief and to the point, and hopefully I did that. This was my thumbnail, which I was really happy with.
He was a strange. Seems like a really strange choice to play Dylan. But again, on the other hand, I don't know who else they would play. Or who else would play him? So
Right. So the thing is that what was interesting, fascinating about this review is that I've gotten several comments that are annoyed at me. Do you know why? You'll never guess.
are you a racist? Or no,
No, no,
that's for the Lion King.
not that, not that, because I mispronounced. There's an old folk music singer called Woody Guthrie, and when I talked about him, I said Woody Guthrie, and I had several comments from
Oops.
people really upset. It's like, guys, I'm sitting in the theater. I'm at best writing some notes. I usually come back. It's like a day or two later that you see my review. I have to sit there then and kind of look at my notes and narrate and talk about it. A person can make a mistake. It happened to me recently also with what's with Wicked, that instead of calling her Elphaba, I called her Elphaba. And man, you should see Until Now. That's a video that actually people continue to watch. I here and there continue to get it. It's like you didn't even know how to pronounce it. But the thing that made me laugh at the Bob Dylan one, I don't know. One guy wrote to me. He wrote, "This crappy AI doesn't even know how to voice, doesn't even know how to pronounce Woody Guthrie." Like, I'm the crappy AI. So
That's
I
you.
actually answered him. This is the funniest thing. I answered him and I wrote, "I assure you it's really me speaking. It's not AI. I mispronounced it. It's not a crappy AI voice." It's not, I actually wrote, "It's not a crappy AI voice that mispronounced the name. It's me. I mispronounced it. Like, sorry for the error." And another person is like, this was a comment I got. "Once you mispronounced Woody's name, I knew I couldn't take your review seriously." It's like, dude, a person can make a mistake. And then I think he wrote the song, "My Land Is Your Land," and you didn't even know. You know what? I didn't know. It's not that I'm a folk music expert. I actually know a lot about music, and I know about Bob Dylan's catalog. Uh, Unfortunately, I didn't know that he wrote "My Land Is Your Land." It's a great kind of folk song. I respect him, and I think that I just wrote in my notes. I must have written Guthrie, and that was a mistake. But it's not the end of the world. It's not a reason to discredit my review. And the same thing with that Wicked thing. Also, what they don't get is like, it's not like I'm thinking of that Alphaba or Alphaba or whatever. It's not like I think about that all day. I wrote it down. I went and I did a review, so I said it. I guess I could have then Googled and just looked at the pronunciation, but you know what? It wasn't that important. But I'll try to be more careful in the future since people are so upset about my pronunciation.
Yep. You should probably run it through an AI next time to make sure that you're pronouncing everything correctly.
I should let there be like a crappy AI voice narrating it. It's, Urkel de Stefano wrote, "Hey, I'm the crappy AI." Yeah, that's what I said to him. Like, it's not, it's me. At least I'll say that the person I said that to was kind of a little nicer afterwards. Whoever that person was, I think, felt a bit bad because they were so sure that it's like an AI. I don't even know how to take that. It's like, do I sound like an AI when I speak? I don't think so. I feel like I actually have character and personality in my voice. It's not a standard AI voice, I think. So in any case, that one, and I think there's another one that we have.
Yes, John Riker for $10 says, "Are they going to do anything with a Stargate TV show? Have you heard anything?" From what I have heard, I'll tell you, maybe Price has some other sources, but I know was talk of a film revival, like a reboot of Stargate. That appears to have fallen through. I seem to remember reading something because it was actually Roland Emmerich who was actually helping to kind of get this together for the films, and eventually it just sort of fell apart. And I believe he just said he's just not even interested in even trying anymore. And then there was also talk of a revival series or some sort of a reboot series. And my understanding is that has also fallen apart. And then some of the rumors about it were actually just made up. So uh, it doesn't sound like anything's going to be happening with Stargate. I really wish it would. Excellent series. The original Stargate SG-1 series. I have the whole season is in a box set right here behind me. And then also enjoyed Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universes were all excellent shows. And I wish they would kind of go back to that universe. I really wouldn't want a reboot though. I'd kind of like to see them kind of continue the story, but if it were a well done reboot, I suppose it could be enjoyable. But I'm kind of tired of reboots. I want to see something new and original. Honestly, have you heard
I do too.
anything else, Price?
No, no, I think you gave a better description and analysis. I knew less than you.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Mar- Marla Sharondoff says AI pronounces so many things badly. I agree with you. Unfortunately, that does happen. But me saying Guthrie instead of Guthrie, it's one thing if the whole thing sounded like a robot and I made a million mistakes or at least like five of them. But one time that I added an N to a name that didn't need it, I really think that's an exaggerated. I feel bad because one of the people, his name was like Woodstock, and I had a picture that looked like he was at Woodstock. I guess he takes that stuff very, very seriously, and I disappointed him, and I apologize, Mr. Woodstock. I apologize for not pronouncing that name correctly. But as far as my review goes, this was a James Mangold movie. I mean, first of all, and that's a good segue because we were talking about Star Wars. I think James Mangold should stick to these kind of movies. But even this movie, he didn't. It's not a flawless movie. It was enjoyable for whatever it was, and there's things I took away that I liked, but it's certainly not a home run in the sense that every single aspect of the movie works, especially the writing, which I think was very limited and really scratched the surface and really didn't give us more insight into what makes somebody like Bob Dylan tick, which you kind of hope
Yeah.
from a movie like this. And I feel like in that sense, Mangold's writing wasn't very good. Maybe he used to be a better writer since
Yeah.
Dial of Destiny. Since Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, I
Ooh.
feel like he's still having trouble recovering from that movie. So it wasn't a great screenplay in my opinion. And
So
yeah,
here's my question, and I watched your review, and you mentioned it maybe a little bit, but uh, James Mangold, one of the earlier biopics he made was the one with Johnny Cash. Was Ring of Fire?
which I
Was that
liked. Walk the Line, yeah.
Walk the Line? Sorry, yeah, Walk the Line. So does it feel like maybe he lifted a lot of the script, a lot of the screenplay from Walk the Line? Does it feel like it's kind of the same movie?
I think that he really wanted there to be sort of a love triangle situation that kind of exists in Walk the Line. I feel like he kind of wanted to have those beats, but I wouldn't say that it's a one-to-one lift.
Okay.
I actually, if nothing else, I wish he would have lifted from Walk the Line, and I'll tell you why. Because in Walk the Line, at least you see at the beginning a little bit of Johnny Cash's childhood, where a few events happen that would later shape his character. So when he
Yeah.
grows up and things happen, you kind of understand why he's doing it. It's important to understand the character development. In this case, the idea is it starts off that Bob Dylan has just arrived in New York. But the problem is everything that happened to Bob Dylan before he arrived in New York is never talked about. You never see it, and it doesn't exist. Now, the idea, I guess, that Mangold was going for is that he wanted to make it seem like he's a mysterious guy. He came from nowhere. He's such a mystery, and we don't know anything about him. And he's just Bob Dylan, and he's here. But you know what? When it comes to telling a story in a movie, that's just not good enough. In reality, Bob Dylan grew up in Minnesota. He actually played multiple instruments. He played in school bands. He played in different bands. He then went to a college where he was supposed to get a degree, and he was trying to play local gigs, and I think at his college or near his college. And at some point, maybe after a year, he decided he didn't want college anymore. He quit, and he told his parents that he's moving to New York City, which to them sounded awful. He's like, that's the center of
Oh
the
yeah.
world, and they were very unhappy. They weren't happy that he left school. They weren't happy that he was going to New York to start his life over again. He gets to New York, completely changes his name, his identity, and pursues a musical career full time. I think that knowing that background, that kind of struggle, even with his family, of not seeing eye to eye on what he wants to do with his life, and arriving in New York and trying to reinvent himself. Once he starts succeeding, I would have felt more of a connection to him, because I would have said, okay, against all odds, he wanted to do this thing. At least you kind of see that, and you have a little bit of appreciation. This international man of mystery, Austin Powers thing doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I explained myself well, but hopefully.
No. I think I get what you're saying.
It's like if he just arrived and he's Bob Dylan, everybody's like, it's great, you're Bob Dylan. Then what's the incentive for me as a viewer? Now, I will say there's a lot of great songs and musical performances here and things like that. Even Timothy Chalamet, which I think doesn't really give me the vibe that he doesn't convince me that he's Bob Dylan. But when it comes to the singing and the performances, you could tell how hard he worked. And even though in the acting parts that he's actually talking like Bob Dylan, I didn't love it. I think that in the musical aspect, I at least could appreciate the hard work he put into it. I said in my review, I think that Edward Norton proves that he's the best actor in this cast.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't surprise me, because Edward Norton, I've always thought, was a good actor, and he's a good actor here. He completely gets into this character of this. He plays Pete Seeger, like an older folk artist, which exists in real life, and he's kind of like a mentor to Bob Dylan. And man, I know that Edward Norton annoys a lot of Hollywood studios and maybe annoys a lot of people, and maybe he's just annoying in general. But you put him in a decent role in a movie, even in a mediocre thing that you give him, and he really knows how to get the most of it.
Yeah. Oh, I almost said Pete Seeger. Ed Norton is an incredible actor, and yeah, I love his work. I do understand that he has a reputation around Hollywood, but I've enjoyed everything I've seen him in. His performances are fantastic.
I have too, and listen, I knew Timothy Chalamet from a young age, like played music and sang and whatever, but I didn't know that about Edward Norton. Edward Norton plays like banjo and sings here and does stuff.
Yeah.
And man, I was really impressed with him. Also, there's this actress, Monica Barbaro, who was in Top Gun Maverick, a movie you didn't see, which I actually think is a good movie. I liked her in that movie. I think that once again, I liked her here. She's a very kind of likable young actress from, I guess, a new generation of actresses. I think she's rather likable. She also did singing here. Maybe she also played some music, singing for sure. And I was impressed. It's funny because all the actors around Timothy Chalamet that are talking to Bob Dylan did a better job, in my opinion, than Timothy Chalamet. Edward Norton, MVP of the movie. Monica Barbaro, maybe second place. Thought she was great. Elle Fanning, close, maybe right after Monica Barbaro. Elle Fanning also did a very, very decent acting job. And then maybe Timothy Chalamet, which you could do worse than him. You could do worse than, maybe in his age group. I don't know who would have done it better, but he still, I don't fully buy it that he's Bob Dylan. And the movie doesn't help me either, because they don't dwell on the character development. There's a lot of things missing. At the end, it's kind of like, it's still a pleasant time at the movie theater if you enjoy this type of musical biopic. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it's just not a great movie.
Yep.
But that was the segue from I guess from James Mangold. And when it comes to Star Wars, you know what? I'm going to sum that up as well. it feels like at Disney, and that's what I was saying in my thumbnail, that they're desperate to try to repair Star Wars. It feels like they're trying to go the Warner Brothers route with Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones really, really stunk in the final, especially in the final season. It was a complete disaster. Brand health dropped. Nobody wanted to think or hear or have anything to do with Game of Thrones. They brought House of the Dragon. They said it's happening 200 years before. It has nothing to do with the other thing. It's just its own thing, and people kind of warmed up to it. I think that they're thinking to themselves, we'll do 25,000 years before, because they tried with the Acolyte that it was before and people didn't like that. They're like, 25,000 years, we can just do whatever we want. But if you want to do whatever you want, then what do you need Star Wars? Like, think of the
Yeah.
desperation now. Think of the desperation to go back 25,000 years. It's embarrassing.
Oh, and you know they're gonna tell some story that's just woke as all get out too. Oh, you know, the Force was never meant for men or something, some crap like that, right? It's gonna be awful. No interest whatsoever.
It's just they keep digging themselves into another hole, into another hole, and another hole. It's all this patchwork that's not going to help them. They have done so much damage, and really, it'll never be repaired to what it was. Never. It'll never. You'll never be able to bring it back to what it was. The only thing they could hope for, and that's what I said. Jump forward. This is what I would do if I were them, but I don't even want to give them ideas. First of all, you want the idea? First of all, everybody in the leadership of Lucasfilm has to go immediately. Kathleen Kennedy has to go.
100%. Yeah.
It's not even a matter of, oh, you're a douche, you don't like her, you don't like this. No, on a business level, forget about all my sentiments. I have had enough years to be miserable about how she ruined the IP and what an annoying activist, bitter lady she is. I could talk about that for hours. But the truth is, even without all of that, I disconnect all of it. I'm a businessman. I walked into there. I'm, you know how in the movies they bring you the cardboard box that you can pack your stuff, and then the security guards like take you out of the building,
Oh yeah.
and like you're carrying the cardboard box. That's
Yeah.
what needs to happen with her.
Yeah.
The security needs to like lead her out with a cardboard box that she's holding, and like she has to be out of there. Like she can't have anything to do with this company ever. Really, preferably maybe with any company, but at least when it comes to Star Wars, she could never have any. Not that she stays and still like Amy Pascal, she's still a producer. No, nothing. Clean, cold turkey.
Yeah.
She's out. And
Nope.
really,
Same with the Lucasfilm Story Group. To a man, every last one
every single
gone.
one.
I don't want a single one of them ever having any relationship with Disney or with Lucasfilm ever again.
Especially Pablo
Gone.
Hidalgo, but all
Yes.
those other weirdos around him as well. All those people that we've seen in videos that they sit around and talk about all this weird activism and crap, all of them gone. With their leader, Pablo Hidalgo, all of them gone. Kathleen Kennedy, anybody in that orbit that they're kind of in their clique or whatever it is, those guys have to be gone. Then you have to sort of comb through the company, find all the weirdo activists that are not working and just doing some weird activism stuff.
I'm sorry.
They have it. You're laughing, but they have a lot of them. Those
No. Something hilarious just happened
What
over
happened?
on Rumble. Istaphobos gifted a subscription to your channel, and the subscription got gifted to Istaphobos.
Well, thank you.
Randomly
Istaphobos.
chose someone in the chat, and he ended up gifting it to himself. So
Well, now I have to check this out. That is funny.
It's just bizarre. I've never. Yeah, I think there's actually there's checks on YouTube to make sure that doesn't happen. You don't end up gifting something to yourself, but apparently that's not the case on Rumble. So yeah, roll of the dice, and Istaphobos managed.
Well, you know what? It was
himself
about
into
time that
the today.
Istaphobos had a subscription on Rumble. So you know, all's well that ends well.
Well, congrats on winning that lottery.
For sure.
Not rigged at all, I'm sure.
So I guess we were so we were talking about Lucasfilm can't be
Yeah.
saved, she has to be out of it. And then you know, if I'm now the top person at Lucasfilm, I don't know, I could be wrong, maybe this is a bad idea, but I would look First of all, try to think if you want to do a trilogy, maybe you just do one movie now, just that doesn't suck. But let's say if you want to plan a real trilogy, you really plan it out. You think you have a vision for it, three stories, how this trilogy is going to tell this story. You know, maybe he's not right for it. Maybe he's a bit pompous sometimes, but I kind of like Christopher Nolan. Maybe it's not right that he does like a Star Wars trilogy, but I promise you that if Christopher Nolan did a Star Wars trilogy, it would be better than J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson.
Oh yeah. No question. It would have some awkward dialogue and some weird sound mixing, but it would actually be a
Right. I
decent
mean,
story.
it would have the things that he does that can annoy people, but I still think that they would have some kind of at least consistent vision from a person that actually cares about his movies, even if maybe it doesn't. It's not perfect. I think
Yeah.
that there would be something to work with there. And if not him, maybe there's other filmmakers that could take that role. But having a having a kind of trilogy that's well planned by a very specific team in advance of professionals that know what they're doing and they're really respecting this would be cool. And I would do it, 1,000 years after Return of the Jedi or 500 years after Return of the Jedi. Give it enough time that some time has passed, but maybe even if it's 300, I don't care. Give it enough time that it's past, that it's sort of in the past of whoever we're looking at. But now there's a new threat, and people are it becomes after years that there wasn't Jedi and wasn't Sith and anything, somebody shows signs of being able to use the Force.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's not like I haven't given here an award-winning idea. Maybe it's just stupid, but I'm just trying to think how could you just like blow off all this crap that happened, from Disney and just try to move forward? That's the only idea that I have. Maybe you have
Better
another idea. I don't
it's
know, but
better
I
it's
feel like
better than what they have, that's for sure.
I
Yeah,
just
there's
feel I don't wanna know anymore what happens between the Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. I don't care about any of that crap, you know what I mean? I don't
yeah.
wanna know what happened 5 minutes before, Phantom Menace. None of that matters to me. As far as I'm concerned, the original trilogy, that's the real deal. Prequels, I'll let them slide. I don't hate them as much as some people do, but they certainly are flawed. But if you wanted some supplemental information about what happened before, you get that from the prequels. Don't need anything else. Future. Move into the future.
Yeah, move
Back
forward,
in the day
move
when you
forward.
had Harrison Ford not as older now as he is, and Carrie Fisher still alive, and Mark Hamill not being a douche, and he's also getting older. You had them in that moment. You could have done something interesting with the three characters. I think that ship has sailed. And rather than recasting and whatever, because of all the damage that Disney has done, forget about it. Maybe kind of like those Halloween movies or whatever, those kind that suddenly ignore some of the canon and just decanonize it. Make a movie 300 years in the future. Talk about Luke Skywalker. Don't talk about any events that happen outside, let's say, the original trilogy and maybe the prequels.
Yeah.
Pretend they don't talk about the Mandalorian. I don't want to hear about Ahsoka. Don't talk about anything. Luke Skywalker, the down with the Emperor and the whatever the Return of the Jedi. That's it. Now it's like 300 years later. It's seemingly like a decent time and everything's great, but suddenly there's a new threat or somebody's discovered how to use the dark side of the Force. I don't know, man. Anything. Just get me out of that stupid crap that they keep going over and over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I feel exactly the same way about Star Trek. I'm a huge fan of the Star Trek films and the television shows, at least up until the most recent garbage that's been output by JJ and Kurtzman. And they went with Next Generation, and then they did Deep Space Nine, and then they did Voyager, and then they went to Enterprise, and they jumped back and tried to tell this prequel story. Now, genuinely, I think they did a pretty good job with that. They rode the line pretty well on trying to tell a story that happens beforehand, but it's not too intertwined with everything that's
What, Enterprise?
happening. Yes.
I
Yeah.
liked Enterprise. I
Yeah.
know it goes against what I believe in. If everything was right in the world, I probably wouldn't like Enterprise. But
Yeah.
man, Scott Bakula and the cast that they had
Yeah.
there, just so likable. I just really enjoyed what that show did. I understand why some people, would have issues with it, but I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah, the first couple of seasons were real rough, but the truth is you can say that about pretty much every Star Trek series.
I liked it
The
right out
first
the gate.
couple
I'll be honest
seasons
with
are
you.
pretty
I
rough.
liked all 4 seasons. I liked
Yeah.
Enterprise right out the gate.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I really didn't. It was just, I don't know. It just didn't draw me in quite as much as some of the others had. But then I was already a little disenchanted with Star Trek at the time because I hated Voyager. I stopped watching Voyager in like season 5 and would just catch an episode here and there. Like the writing on that was abysmal. So I kind of gave up on it. And I came back to Enterprise and I tried to enjoy it. I watched Enterprise all the way through. But yeah, but then when going with everything they've done since then, it's all this just prequels. We got to go back and tell these stories back here, and we got to tell. Oh, now we're going to go even further. Now they're saying they're going to make another one. And it's going to be Starfleet Academy. It's going to happen even before the prequels that they've already told. And it's like, just stop it. Just do what you did with the Next Generation. Jump 70 years in the future and just start telling another story.
Agreed. That
Just
would
with different characters with different dynamics on a ship, having adventures and experiencing, checking out new life and new planets and different civilizations and exploring all sorts of different stuff that we do with sci-fi, where we can talk about contemporary issues in our society, but we talk about it with a sci-fi sheen on it, so we can get away with talking about things that might be a little, a little touchy, right? Like, just go do that. Like, I didn't mind you talking about, like gay people in the Next Generation when you did that one episode about the people that don't have genders or whatever. Like, that was actually an interesting story, and it had something to say, and it didn't hit you over the head with a hammer every 5 seconds to tell you what a bigot you were, right? It actually tried
right.
to bring you along and teach you something and say and put you in someone else's shoes. That's what sci-fi does really well. That's what sci-fi is. It lets you explore all of these things from different angles and to see and understand how different people might learn different things and know different things and how different societies work. That's what's amazing about sci-fi. And it's so frustrating that they just keep going back. It's just, oh, well, more prequels. Let's do more prequels. No, let's go back even further and tell even more prequels. Just stop. Just move forward and tell something new that happened after all of our other characters that we knew were dead. Like, just move on.
And by the way, it's the Phobos, who's the latest member on Rumble,
Yes.
says Voyager is almost as bad as Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far, but I will say that Voyager is the only show out of the Star Trek ones that I watched, I think, a season, and then I stopped. And I'm ashamed because I know
Yeah.
people say that I need to stick with it. I never had time to kind of go back and really go through it, as opposed to, let's say, Enterprise that I enjoyed right out the gate.
Yeah.
Voyager really, I didn't feel a connection with. It's
No.
not Star Trek Discovery. It's not Star Trek Discovery. I
Ugh.
watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes and stopped, and it's not Star Trek at all for me. It's not Star Trek, period.
Yeah. It's
Voyager, I didn't
revolting.
think it wasn't Star Trek. I was told that, like, I have to wait more seasons until it really picked up, and I was kind of exhausted after the first one.
Yeah, I watched, like I said, probably like all the way through the 5th season or so. I was kind of, trying to like Voyager, really wanted to like Voyager, but the further and further it went along, I just realized like the whole premise of the show was absurd. I didn't mind. I mean, there was the odd episode here and there with Voyager. We could just talk about Star Trek the rest of the night if you want.
No, I
The
was gonna say that Marla Sharondoff, a friend of the channel, was here with
yeah.
us. I didn't see her in the past few minutes, posting anything, but I know she's a Trekkie, so she's probably in really I wondered if she liked Voyager, but go on.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna I mean, there was the odd episode here and there of Voyager that I really enjoyed, and I thought was some really interesting science fiction that explored some different ideas and they had interesting characters that were included in it. But for the most part, most of that show I felt was just filler. And there were some episodes that I literally the episode was over and I go, that was just stupid. I don't even understand why they told that story. Not that I blame the actors, I certainly don't. I blame the writers who clearly did not know who Captain Janeway was supposed to be from the start of the show. She changes season to season as to how she's going to feel about this or that and how she's going to do something. I don't mind a female captain. I got no problem with that. I want the character to be consistent, and I want the character to continue to be that captain. If she's got a different leadership style, whatever, that's fine. I don't care. It just felt like the character was all over the place throughout the show. And then you'd have one episode where she'd do something and they're like, what? That completely goes against what she did in this other show. But for me, the premise from the very beginning was broken, because there's a spaceship that has now been launched across the galaxy, has no hope of rescue, cannot connect with Starfleet for anything. They're on their own, and they decide to approach the show as episodic instead of making it serialized. So every single episode you hit the reset button. So you got a spaceship that has no hope of getting to a starbase to get repairs or anything like that, right? There's nothing you can do to fix up your ship the same way you would if you were back, with Starfleet. And they would get in massive battles, and they would shoot off, 5 or 10, photon torpedoes, and they would blow off half the hull. There's one episode much later into the series where they meet this basically an alien race that were just ripoffs of the Predator. Uh, and they come on their ship, and they're going to hunt the crew, and so they basically tear out a bunch of decks on the ship to turn it into one gigantic holodeck so they can hunt the crew on the ship in this gigantic holodeck. And then the next episode, whole ship's fixed, no big deal, right? Something that would it's ridiculous that they chose this episodic style of storytelling for a show that's clearly should have been serialized. There should have been consequence every time they get in a battle and the ship's broken. They've now got to find somebody who can help them fix their ship or the resources that they need. And instead, most of the time, the only thing that you ever saw that was like sort of serialized was that, oh, we don't have enough gas. We have to, every now and then we got to stop and fill up the tank. That was about it. So
I see.
it irritated me a lot.
That's understandable. Marla Sharnov says Voyager was okay. It's fine. I mean, if you liked it, it's fine. I'm not saying it was terrible, but I didn't feel that kind of connection with it.
No.
I will try to give it another chance at some point. I just need the time. I want to be able to sit and really try to, and I don't know if say enjoy, but I want to.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to be in a certain mindset and say, okay, now I'm watching this whole thing now. And when you have so many episodes and so many seasons,
Oh yeah,
sometimes it's difficult to make that decision and then do it.
Yep. I'll watch. I wouldn't say I watch TNG every single year. I'll watch the original series through probably at least once a year, and then my favorite of the series is Deep Space Nine. I absolutely loved that show, so I will go back and watch that probably about once a year. I'll watch my way through that just here and there. Been a while since I watched back through Enterprise. Probably about time I sat down. I bought the Blu-rays not too long ago, so I need to sit down and watch my way through Enterprise again. Uh-oh, Price of Reason has disappeared on us. So we're going to talk about Star Trek for a while. Nope. Oh, wait, here he is. Okay.
You were going to talk about Star Trek for
what else was I going to talk about while you were gone? I think we'll just go.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I hope you know who was in the live chat, because somehow a lot of the stuff here has disappeared, so I won't be able to find them.
Well, mine got reset at one point, so I won't have some of the earlier ones, but I've still got my windows up for Rumble and YouTube chat, so we should have a lot of them anyway.
I see Jeanette here and Whalem03. Those are the only ones that pop up here. I don't know what other people said. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I love that during that earlier era of Star Trek, you could say, well, I didn't love Voyager, but there was no point where you're like, you didn't have, even Voyager is not like a Discovery or anything like that.
No.
Anything in the Kurtzman era is just a joke. The only thing that was like passable was that third season of Picard, in my opinion, where you
Yeah.
had Terry Matalas doing it. It's not perfect. There were certainly issues there.
No, it's definitely has its ups and downs. It's
It,
not
it
perfect at all, no,
It's
but
not perfect, but at least it was the minimum that I felt that it wasn't like the people making the show were taking a dump on the viewers. They were trying. Terry Matalas was at least trying, attempting to do
yes.
something that's not
Yes.
an insult to fans. At least when somebody's trying to do something that's not like spitting in your face, at least that you can feel it. I feel like the people that were receptive to it, and I was one of them, like I said, there were episodes that felt more filler. There was stuff that I didn't like, but all in all, at least I felt that there was somebody that liked Star Trek involved, and he was trying to do something positive. Sometimes that's worth something, and I feel like it gave us some moments we want to call it nostalgia or the original crew together. Uh, there were some moments in this thing that I think was hard not to at least feel something. But I can understand people that also said, "I don't wanna give them my business, I don't wanna watch this and screw these people." I understand that as well, so
Yep. Any of the older Star Treks I will take over anything that's been
anything.
made
It's the
since.
same with Rogue One. I mean, at the end of the day, if you tell me, "Listen, JJ and Kurtzman, we remove anything they've ever made, and that includes Picard season 3," which I didn't not enjoy it, it was alright, it was pretty decent, but you take away everything, including that, and you never give it to JJ and Kurtzman, I'd
Mhm.
probably take that deal.
Yep. I and people say, "But then we wouldn't have had Star Trek for, 15 years." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine with that.
No problem. Maybe
Totally
now
fine
somebody
with that."
normal would have returned and done something good with it. Maybe it needed a break. You know what I mean? Sometimes a
Yeah.
break isn't bad.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had any Star Trek for the last 20 years. I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." I
By
would
the
rather have
way,
not Star Trek than the absolute filth that they've been pumping out. So, yeah, I will admit, I enjoyed the cartoon Lower Decks. I enjoyed sort of their, Rick and Morty take on Star Trek because
Marla Sharondoff
did
said that
not
she
take it
liked it
seriously.
too. I tried watching one of those. It seemed idiotic to me, and I just didn't feel like watching
I
anymore.
mean, it's an acquired taste, right? I mean, it's pretty silly most of the time. It's very referential to, lots of earlier Trek. I thought it had some fun characters. It had some interesting stuff in there. I enjoyed it. Again, not in the same way I would enjoy like a classic Trek. It's more in line with like a Rick and Morty kind of a thing. It was the humor and everything, but it had some fun references to older Trek, and it really what the funny thing is, like, a lot of the newer Trek that's made, the stuff that Kurtzman was really behind, they really did not look back. They didn't want to be tied to any previous Trek as much as they could be. They wanted to get away from it. Like a lot of the stuff that we've seen with Star Wars, where they're like, "Oh, we don't want you to know anything about Star Wars, to come in and write our Star Wars show. We want you to have fresh takes or whatever." But the guys that were behind Lower Decks actually were like huge Star Trek fans, and in fact encouraged, like, he had the guy who was the lead writer on the show actually was like handing out lists of episodes to writers on the show, like, "You need to watch these episodes so we can make jokes about it in our show next week." Right? So it in a funny way, it was this silly cartoon that was actually the only new Star Trek being made that actually cared anything about the old Star Trek. So,
I believe that. Maybe I was just grumpy at that point. I tried
uh,
watching an
you know,
episode. I didn't really understand what they wanted, and I just didn't have patience for it. I'm not knocking people if they watched it and saw something that they enjoyed. It's just like I said, there's so little fan goodwill that when something like that comes along, my
absolutely.
patience is if I don't press play and immediately love it, then at this point there it doesn't even get any attention from me. So that's what happened with Lower Decks. I have heard some people say that it's not the worst. Marla Sharondoff in the chat here said that as well. But what I did want to share with you,
Oh,
did you have?
we got a couple of super chats before we
Oh,
move
okay.
on. So,
Where?
From YouTube here, a couple of super chats. So let's see, Joshua Calkins for $4.99 said V'ger's limits inspired Ron Moore to make Battlestar Galactica: Consequences and Continuity. Interesting. Yeah. Ron Moore had really did love Star Trek. In fact, it was he had similar complaints to what I had to Voyager about like the absurdity of we have a ship that's stuck out in the middle of the galaxy all on its own, and it's not there's no continuity here. Like they would have to make some really tough decisions about how well they want to stick to Starfleet's rules and stuff. Like, and all of that just sort of went out the window, and he was very unhappy about that and did not stick around for Voyager. So yeah, it was it was definitely something big for him when he got upset with the where Voyager was going. He left, and he did Battlestar Galactica. We got another one here from the Dead Man for $9.99. Says, "I'll take any discussion that tallies about Star Trekker." So I think he's just talking any discussion talking about Star Trek. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we had quite a long discussion there.
Yeah, no, we had a lot. I also I want to just take because somebody was asking me, "Oh, you have this amount of subscribers." On YouTube, I have a few different channels, and there's one that's sort of considered a live stream channel, which most of the people that are subscribed to my main channel don't always. Sometimes they get recommended the second one, and they're not sure, and they don't actually subscribe to the second one. Of course, if you're watching it, whatever platform you're watching, if it is possible, always great to subscribe. So if you're watching this now and you're not subscribed, you should definitely do that. Not only to me, but also to Professor R2, who's on X, and he's also on Rumble, and I think also on YouTube. He's on every platform. You should check him out, Professor R2. And in addition, if we're already talking about Rumble, Rumble is the home base for this show. This is a very Rumble-driven show, The Night Owl, and that's why we feel like we can discuss things freely because they really promote free speech here. They're strong believers in it. And I know that a lot of people, I say this probably every time, but I'll say it again. A lot of people happen to watch our show by using the Rumble app. And sometimes it's even on a TV, and it's really convenient. You press and you watch it. And we're so grateful for people to tune in and hang out with us. I will say though that you can join Rumble for free, and if you join for free, it gives you additional features. You can participate in the chat. You can leave comments. You can like. So first of all, I recommend, since it's free, you should always, if you're using the app and you're watching stuff, do an account. So sign up, subscribe, to Rumble for even the free account, just so that you're here and that you can maybe be more involved in the conversation. Also, if you do that, please also follow us here on Rumble. That would be really cool. I guess that's one thing that I wanted to say. In addition, I also want to bring up that Rumble has a premium level, which people can pay money for, but then they don't have ads. That's also something that they rolled out at some point, and that's also something that's worth looking into. In any case, I think it's important to support Rumble because it's a platform. I know what it feels like to be on platforms that silence you because I had that on Twitter back in the day. It's not that way now under Elon Musk, but back in the day it was like that for me, and it's a really crappy feeling. And Rumble lets people talk about whatever they want to talk about, and just wanted to take a minute and say that because I'm always really, really grateful for the kind of space that we have here to have these late night conversations. But now that I'm done with all of that, what were we talking about? Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. There is did you see this trailer with Amy Schumer? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I had seen some tweets, posts, whatever we call them on X now, about it, but I had not actually gotten to watch the trailer. No.
What happened is that there is a movie where Amy Schumer, I guess, doesn't want to lose weight, so she wants people to think she's pregnant or something like that. I wanted to watch this trailer with you because people are talking about it. I guess, is that politically correct? Is it not politically correct? I really, I don't know. Is it supposed to be offensive for people that are fat? I don't even know. I don't get offended easily. I don't really care one way or another,
Yeah,
but I
me
know
either.
some people are very sensitive. I wanted to watch this trailer so I kind of can understand what's considered offensive about it. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Let's see. Okay.
Oh, this is a Netflix thing, huh?
So Netflix, that's never a good sign.
Looking good, mama.
Hey, have you ever felt like you were so close to having it all?
Thanks.
But there was one little secret
You look so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's probably because I'm pregnant.
you lost control of.
Oh, how dare you walk around with that fake fucking belly?
What am I gonna do? Do you ever tell like such a big lie you don't know how to get out of it?
How's your pregnancy going?
Oh my God, so cute.
Yeah.
Hi.
Cute little face almost tore my asshole open.
I've always known I want a family. Have you ever dated a pregnant woman?
You're the least pregnant person I've ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
You wait till they're
We-
crowning.
Yeah, I want them to be like 2 weeks away from dropping.
Women don't share what it's like. It's so isolating.
How do you really feel during your pregnancy? I'm angry. I ate a cupcake out of the trash can last night.
I can't stop masturbating to weird stuff, like the Golden Bachelor.
Get the hell out of here.
You know, we should have more like secrets.
What if someone you know catches you with this?
You smell that? It's like burnt plastic.
Why am I listening to you? You have 3 active restraining orders against you. Which says to me there are 3 people out there who sees my passion. I show up at their work. I show up at their house. I show up at their mother's house. I'm fucking everywhere.
The most important relationship you're ever going to have is with yourself.
You're being a stupid tit-faced jerk butt.
Oh, it is you, my friend, that has the face of a tit.
Can you two bitches calm down? You can't even come up with proper fucking swear words at this point.
How far along are you, judging by your facial bloating? 5 months?
Break your fucking neck.
What was that?
I've been a freaking wreck.
I would be too if my ankles were that big.
Well, so much for body positivity, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it shows the hypocrisy of all of this, and the truth is that more than anything, this trailer just bored me. It just looks like some dumb crap.
Oh
So,
yeah. It just looks like a whole bunch of her bits from a stand-up show that she's tied together into a
but not even good ones.
little
It's just
movie.
like
No.
I think that many years ago, people say maybe she stole people's jokes. I don't know. I think that many years ago, some of her humor wasn't the worst I'd seen. Like for a female comedian, actress, whatever it is. I initially, when she came on the scene, I didn't completely hate her, but very quickly she kind of outstayed her welcome in the sense that she became
Oh,
really
yeah.
annoying. And over the years, it's just kind of like a snowball effect of more annoying, more annoying, more annoying. And as she becomes more annoying, she's also less funny and less funny and less funny. At this point, she's both annoying and not funny. I don't know. Probably there's an expert that can explain mathematically what happened. Maybe draw a few graphs, but all I know is that I don't really love her movies or her humor or anything. Maybe I'm not the target audience for it. Speaking of which, I have a strange anecdote to tell you. You don't know this. We've
Oh,
never
my.
talked about it. I'm going to tell you this. Let's see if I can find this thing.
When did you buy a drink at a bar for Amy Schumer?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do
Oh,
that.
okay.
Let me try to find this thing. I'm trying to see if I can find. Okay, so there's this thing. I'm going to try to share it. Oh, what happened? I had it. Maybe it's okay. So it's this thing. Sorry.
That's
Tell
right.
them some jokes, Professor.
Some jokes.
So
Oh, good. Okay.
there's this movie called Plan B. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't know why this happened. I got an email, maybe it was a few weeks ago, from some production company out of the blue, and they said, we enjoy your reviews," which really surprises me because I did. I mean, there are some people that watch it, but I'm not like the critical drinker, so I don't know why this production company would watch my reviews. They said, "We enjoy your reviews. We were wondering if you could review our movie." And it wasn't like a spam. I'm telling you that these people reached out to, I do have an email, but it's not an email that's listed everywhere. You have to actually go and dig and find it. They specifically knew who I was, what my reviews are, and they wanted me to view their movie and share my opinion on it. Uh, I ended up watching this movie. Are you familiar with this?
I remember hearing about it when it came out. It's been 3 or 4 years, right?
No, no. Okay, there was a different movie. Okay, there was a movie called Plan B 3 or 4 years ago. This isn't it. This is a movie from 2024 that came
Oh.
out in recent months. It came out maybe 2 months ago, and I think they reached out to me maybe 3 weeks ago. I don't know what it was, and I told them at the time it's also strange timing because the movie's already been out for a while, like it's been out for a month or something. Why did you think of me now? And they're like, we don't know. Can you review it? And it was such a bizarre request that I said, you know what? I'll watch this movie and I'll review it. So I watched this movie. I watched it today, and it is basically about first of all, I want to tell you this is a very low budget movie. It feels like a very small indie movie. At the same
Mhm.
time, it's not incompetently made, meaning considering what feels like a very minor budget here, I think that at least whatever movie they wanted to make, it's made well enough for I do appreciate when people don't have a gazillion dollars like Disney, when they don't have $200 million, and you see a team of people that are taking very little and trying to make the most of it. I appreciate that. I encourage it, even if it's like movies that don't exactly speak to me and maybe not my preferred genre. The reason I'm surprised why they wanted me to do this. This looks very much like a movie that women would watch. Nothing
Mhm.
personal, ladies. I know that probably doesn't sound good. I don't know how to make it sound better than what I just said, but you understand what I'm trying to say, Professor, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a movie where there's a lady who basically spends the night with a guy. She gets pregnant, and then because she thinks the guy is a loser, she's trying to find another guy basically that she'll kind of latch onto him, giving him the impression that it's his kid, and maybe she can find a guy like, that's considered better than the original guy, like an upgrade, because she feels the original guy is a loser. Okay? Uh,
Mhm.
it's not really a movie that I would say if I saw this description, probably not the type of movie that I would watch. With that being said, since they asked very nicely and I decided to do the favor, I watched it. I think that if you're a woman and you like romantic comedies and you're looking for one that's a little more indie and you know competently made, it felt like a kind of throwback to these type of maybe movies that you would have seen maybe 10, 15 years ago. And that's not necessarily a type of feeling, only it shifts to something else. It starts off sort of like knocked up, but then it kind of becomes something where she's trying to find like a replacement father. It's definitely not along the lines of the type of movie that I would watch. But if I had to give it like a score or a grade or whatever, I would say it's not perfect. It's not like I'm gonna. It's not like a Godfather level score here. But I could see myself, giving it like maybe a 7 out of 10 for whatever it's supposed to be. Again, I'm not the target audience. You have to be
Yeah.
a woman that likes romantic comedies of this nature or romantic comedies from like the 10, 15 years ago style. And I think that this would probably good. When I gave the grade, and I sometimes do this, I take into consideration that this is not a big budget movie. This feels like a very, very small budget movie. I appreciate companies that want to do a lot with a little. That's where I think that cinema needs to get back to. I think that we would be so much better off if you had these kind of small crews of people making movies that they're passionate about, even if it's not maybe the preferred genre for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. We need a
And
lot more small productions.
And the biggest mystery here, I mean, I like John Hader. He's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind him. I think that he's okay in this movie. Even this Jamie Lee actress, I personally, I wasn't familiar with her. I thought she was relatively likable.
Yeah.
Shannon Elizabeth, who has like a more smaller supporting role, I think she was in the American Pie movies or whatever it is. I like Shannon Elizabeth. There's nothing bad for me to say about her. I think that the casting, they chose a pretty good cast here that does whatever they need to do. Like I said, competently made. I could feel that they didn't have a budget and they still made a movie that I feel I've seen much worse movies than this with 200 times the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that I would say worse as much as it's not necessarily in my wheelhouse. I'm still kind of stunned as to why they even asked me to review it, to be honest.
Yeah.
If you have an
I know.
answer, you can tell me.
Yeah.
I absolutely
No
don't
idea.
know.
No idea. I was reading through some of the comments.
I
That we've
I
gotten.
feel like maybe they thought I was a different reviewer. That's what I think to myself.
Who
I
knows?
feel
Who knows? May- No, I was just looking at a couple of the comments on YouTube. Whalem03. A lady gets pregnant and tricks a guy. Ha ha. So funny. Like, it's kind of how I feel about it right now, thinking about the plot of this. Like,
listen, it is really like, yes, and just so you know, when I watched it, I was feeling like this is crappy, but I will say this, the lady that does this deed, which I consider a bad deed, she actually goes through a process in the movie and realizes her mistake. So it's not just that she like does it and she's a terrible person. She does something that seemingly she is a terrible person, but the fact that at least she goes through a process of understanding that what she did was bad, I thought was interesting, if
yeah,
nothing else.
that's something. I mean, yeah,
I mean,
that's different.
honestly, when I was watching it, I thought to myself, "This is my worst nightmare." You know what I mean? A lady
Yes.
like this that like tries to fool you that you're the father. That's a really terrible thing. But at least I'll give credit that throughout the movie she understands she's done a terrible thing and she's trying to fix it. So it's better than nothing. And in any case, I can't just take my personal feelings and say, "Oh, in real life this, in real life that." Somebody made this movie and was passionate about it and had something to say about it. And I think that there is a message here that initially the original guy, she thinks he's a loser and dismisses him, but over time it turns out that she was just, for lack of a better word here, she was being a bitch, and he actually was a nice guy. So, and the movie gives you that impression. It's not that I'm saying that.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
realizing that as well. So I guess what I'm saying is there is a character arc here and a story that she goes through. Is it likable that that's what she would do? No, I think that's kind of despicable. But at the same time, you sometimes watch movies and there could be a person doing something despicable in the movie. You know what I mean? It's not a reason for me to dismiss it. It's fine for whatever it's supposed to be. Like I said, not really my genre, but I thought it was competently made for the amount of money, and I did, even though it started off and I was annoyed by what she was doing, I at least appreciated that she realized what she was doing is bad and tried to fix it. So it is what it is.
As opposed to, I'm sure, Amy Schumer in that in that other movie where she's going in the end, she's going to be right because it was the right thing to do for her at the time, and she's not going to need to apologize for anything because she's a strong woman and she needs her freedom or whatever. You know, she's not going to learn any lessons. She's not going to be an
No,
arc.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. If you look at the things that she does, like on paper, from the second that she's with the first guy, and then that she's trying to pin the pregnancy on somebody else, it's terrible. But
Yeah,
but
but she
it's
learns from it. She makes a mistake. She realizes it's a mistake. Yeah,
at least there's some kind of character development that she learns. And the movie is sort of done in sort of this lighthearted, silly, almost like I said, like not late 90s, early 2000, whatever it is, like an old school type of rom-com
sure,
situation.
sure.
So it doesn't take itself all that seriously. I think the performances were pretty decent and it was a pretty likable cast. And I thought that the film with the budget was competently made. Again, I'm a guy, we just spent time talking about Star Wars half an hour and then Star Trek half an hour. Those are things that I'm much more passionate about. This rom com thing, I wanted to at least try to be objective and watch it and give my opinion. And that's my opinion. It's a small budget thing. I appreciate the effort. even if it's a style that I don't like. That happens to me sometimes. Sometimes I watch a movie that maybe is not my genre, but I don't want to just go out and say, oh, it's like a 2 out of 10 because I don't like these movies. I try to look at it and say, okay, don't think for a second of what your preferred genre is. Try to look at it as a reviewer and think, if somebody liked this genre, would they enjoy this movie? And I think that if you specifically like these kind of very female orientated, female driven, female targeted rom-coms with sort of a journey of some woman that she goes through, I don't know what, this movie, and considering the budget they had, is competently made.
Yeah. Nice.
Hopefully
Yeah.
that was I did what I could, and listen, I'm all for it. If people want to send me movies to watch, I'm happy to do it. If they have other movies that are maybe a different genre, this studio or whoever that sent it to me, I hope that they find maybe things that are more tailored to me. Because I appreciate somebody reaching out and saying, we want to hear your opinion. We'd love to hear a review from you. Really nice. If you could do something more targeted. I like action. I like sci-fi. Fantasy. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of styles that I like that I could be a good fit. Even a little bit of spooky. You want a little bit of horror spooky? I could do that. I
Yeah.
really I don't really watch many rom-coms.
Yeah, not a big rom-com person myself. I've seen a few here and there that were enjoyable. They were well made. They were funny. It's just not the genre that I would really pick to spend my time with either.
Yeah, but I thought it was funny that they
Yeah.
I thought it was funny that they reached out to me.
Recognized your talent, Price.
I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake that somebody was looking for someone, and here's what I think happened. This is my theory. Whoever is at this studio, whatever this is, somebody told, and I think this movie is now on Apple Plus. I don't even know. That's what we're seeing here. Is I guess it's on Apple. Is this the Apple website? I don't know. In any case, what I think happened is that somebody at the studio probably told an intern, "Hey, there's some reviewer that we like. Can you get him to watch this movie?" It was probably the name of somebody that rhymes with Price of Reason or something like that. The intern must have not heard correctly what he was told, or she went to the computer looking for that reviewer, stumbling on to me, and then they asked me, because I don't have any other explanation for it, really. And they even gave me like a screener. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just that because they didn't want me to pay for it. They actually gave me a link where I can put in a password and watch it without paying. That's how excited they were about me reviewing this thing.
Yeah.
Come on, Professor. Who else would this happen to?
I'm guessing they were searching YouTube. They were wanting YouTube reviewers. They were searching around. They said, "Hey, which YouTube reviewers, had bought drinks for Leslie Headland?" And they found you. They knew you were out there, and they wanted you to review it. So.
Right. A lot of people are writing funny things. I don't know why they're not coming up in the Rumble thing, but
Price
yeah,
of treason, spice of prison, splice of treason,
rice of seasons, prince of raisins, probably.
Prince of raisins, yes.
It is what it is. But you know what? At least I was a good sport. Nobody could say I wasn't a good sport about it.
Hey, they said, "Hey, watch our movie," and you said, "I'll watch your movie."
I feel bad for the intern. You know what I mean? I feel bad for the intern. I watched the movie, did what I could. And
if it's like any other work that interns do these days, they outsourced that to generative AI model. So,
or there's somebody in a dungeon in Romania that facilitated this, and I hope nothing bad happens to that person. Hang in there,
hang in there,
Yuroslav.
Yes.
In any case, I'm a terrible person. I'm worse than this lady in this movie. What am I gonna do?
It's late and Price is getting loopy.
Okay, so that was a strange pregnancy thing.
Yeah. So I did get that confused because I knew there was another movie called Plan B that came out not.
What was the other one though? What was the other?
Well, I remember the other one because I just remember there was some controversy about it because it was about this girl basically has a one-night stand, and then she needs to find the drug Plan B to
Ah.
make sure she doesn't, get pregnant. And it's about her trying to find, like, running around trying to find Plan B at pharmacies in the Midwest, where, of course, in the Midwest, nobody lets you have, contraceptives
It
in
was
the
something on
Midwest.
Hulu, powered by Disney, one of those whiny
Yeah,
things.
and it was bizarre. It was, yeah.
Well, thank goodness it wasn't Disney asking me
Yeah.
to review that one. This one was,
No,
like,
no.
somehow more manageable,
This
but
one
yeah.
seems like it was a bit of a passion project for some people that put it together and found some funding and made a movie. Sounds great.
Exactly. So, in any case, I still respect that people ask. Out of all my years, there's only been 2 times that somebody asked me. Once, at least it was something that also didn't seem really in my wheelhouse, but it was a satirical. I can't remember the name of a movie. It was a satirical movie with all these weird drawings of people talking, and somebody asked me. It was really, really kind of out there, and I watched it, and I think that I tweeted a review. Like, I didn't even do a video at the time. I think I just tweeted. What was I gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think at the time it didn't really regulate. I don't know why they reached out to me then or what they wanted, but that was a long time ago, and this is the second time. No, that's not true. Uh, Sometimes I'm on the list for, like, Angel Studios. Sometimes they ask me to review stuff,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
which I really. You know what? I've said it before. I really like how that studio operates and the type of attitude they have. They're never. They're very polite, and they're never kind of sitting on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't do the Disney thing that they're like, "Oh, how would you like a few tickets to see this and this?" Like, none of that. They're just like, "Here's a screener. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it." That's it. Like, they don't bother you, don't do anything, and, you know, there have been situations that, I actually had some criticism regarding a movie, and they were really interested in hearing my really genuinely interested in hearing my critique, in the sense of, like, they wanted to improve. I like
Yeah.
attitude like that. I like
Yeah.
Angel Studios. They have small budgets sometimes for movies. They try to make the best of the budgets they have. They have crowdsourcing. I like what they do. And really, I mean, a lot of their movies are actually, they range from, being maybe having flaws to good to even very good. I thought that Cabrini was a really well made movie. It's one of those situations that it's not like the subject matter is exactly what I look for in a movie, but you know what? I sat there and watched it, and I couldn't help but feel a bit inspired. I don't know if you've seen Cabrini.
I did not get to see that one, no, but it does sound interesting.
It was like a period piece about a lady who
Yeah.
was like, a nun with a lot of health problems that basically got up one day and said, "Hey, why don't I open all these orphanages and help all these children?" And you know what? You could be the most cynical and annoying person like myself, but there's something about watching a movie that's a period piece about a woman who was wholesome and was trying to do something good. And it's hard not to watch it and feel, something positive. It's not every movie has to be mean spirited or bad. And the fact that they want to make movies that make you feel uplifted, I don't have any problem with that. Even though sometimes it's sort of not exactly my genre or whatever, I still was able to enjoy that movie, and I thought it was very well made. The Cabrini one, I thought Sound of Freedom. I thought that was it was a difficult movie to watch. It's not one that I'm going to watch again. I felt sick to my stomach watching it, but it was a well made film.
Mhm. What do you think of are you, gonna go see Homestead?
Which one? Which one is that?
So Homestead's the new one from Angel Studios that's coming out where uh, there's a nuclear bomb gets dropped on LA and it causes the whole country to fall into chaos. And so there's some
I
homesteaders, some
I
preppers.
most likely have, it's possible that I've received an invite to watch it. I just have to look through my emails.
Yeah,
Usually when they come out with something, they send me an invite. Because of the holidays and everything, I've been really swamped. I have to look through
yeah.
my emails, but, they're the only studios, out of all the studios in the world, that if they have a movie, most times, unless there's something that somebody forgot, they will reach out to me and say, like, we have a new movie. And again, no pressure. Nobody's telling me you have to say you like it. Nobody's saying we won't send you more anymore if you don't say it's the best movie you've ever seen. None of that. They just send it to you, and genuinely, in some cases, even privately, they were genuinely interested and hearing some more of my thoughts, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah. This Homestead one sounds like it's gotten some early reviews, and it sounds like it's got some buzz. So interested to hear.
I'm gonna
They're
look
doing
into
sort
it.
of a multi. I think they're doing like they have like a series that goes along with the
Do
movie.
you know? Did this already come out? This Homestead?
It may have. It may. I think Homestead. The movie just came out. Did the series maybe go before the film? I don't know.
Okay, wait a second. I guess it released on December 20th. I actually did have a chance to watch it, and I didn't. They have another one called Brave the Dark. That
Yeah.
one I think I'm able to watch. So I'm gonna make an effort to watch Homestead and Brave the Dark. And my apologies to Angel Studios. It's just I've been swamped with the holidays and with these other reviews, and I didn't notice in my inbox. But it's good that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Those guys already weeks ago asked me, the ones with the pregnant woman, so I watched that. But
Yeah.
I am looking forward. I'm gonna check out Homestead. I'm gonna check out
Yeah.
that other one that I said, and let's see what they come up with. Hopefully, it'll be good.
Hopefully. Yeah. It's a great independent studio, and they've been producing some really good stuff. Yeah.
I agree. First of all, I am a fan of independent studios. That's why, even like I told you, even with this pregnant woman thing, I appreciate when people say we don't have money, we don't have big studios backing us, we have an idea and we really want to pursue it. I really enjoy that passion. Uh, I will be. You know, you could say, oh, you shouldn't be forgiving if they only have like $1 million or they only have a few $1 million. I am more forgiving because when I watch, like, let's say, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and they had like $400 million, or however much they spent, and it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. There's really no excuse. You know what I'm saying? If you add 400 and something $million and that's a piece of crap you put out there, there's no excuse for anything. You should be embarrassed and ashamed. But if you add like only like $2 or $3 million, which is basically, 1 week of catering on that Dial of Destiny production or whatever it is, and that's all you had to make your movie, I appreciate that somebody was like, no, I'm going to make this anyways. I have to make my movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I encourage those type of things. I also like Angel Studios is very kind of budget conscious. Some of their movies are very low budget, and they have their ideas and they go after them. I recently saw Bonhoeffer. I did actually speak about that with you here.
Yeah. I've been wanting to see that one. I'm waiting for that one to land on streaming so I can
Yeah.
watch it. It
I,
sounds
I, I
very
thought that
interesting.
was pretty insightful, that movie. I mean, I think that I liked until now, I think Cabrini and Sound of Freedom were amongst the better thing they released. I also thought that movie with the Asian doctor that helps children, I
Yes.
think it was called Sight. I thought that was a rather inspiring movie. I didn't dislike that movie. I thought it was pretty good. Those were amongst the ones from Angel Studios that really stand out to me. There was one called The Switch, which that was a case where I felt it was very ambitious, but they took about a budget of like, I don't know if it was $5 million or something, $6 million, and made a sci-fi movie. It is very, very difficult to make a sci-fi movie with that kind of budget.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that I'm still able to appreciate the effort that went into that movie. There's some good ideas there, but that one, it's good, but it's flawed. I mean, it feels like they had a good idea there, and they have some good cast members. It has Neil McDonough. It has Sean Astin. Uh,
Mhm.
there's another guy, I forget his name, that also did a good job there. And I like the idea itself. It's just somehow. When you have that little resources and you're trying to put together such an ambitious movie, it's not easy to make it really, as good as it should be. So that one I felt was more flawed, but I still, again, didn't hate it. Didn't regret watching it. I just, it's like I
Yeah.
said, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard looking at them the same way when I see them making a sci-fi movie for $5 million, and like I said, the next moment I look at the Marvels. I don't know what they spent, like $300 million on it.
Oh God. Yeah.
I mean, how many
more than
movies could
that.
I make with those Disney budgets? I would
Yeah.
prefer that you took the $400 million for Dial of Destiny and divide it into like $5 million projects where you give a bunch of indie directors a chance to make something interesting. That's what I would do. All these studios annoy me. They annoy me that annoying jerk offs, sorry, Sean, that they take $400 million and put it into one movie instead of letting all these creators. You know what? Even give them $10 million a piece and let's see 40 movies. 40 passion projects of like indie directors, or if you want to give them 5 million and you want to see 80, I guarantee you that from those 80 there would be a lot more interesting things than Dial of Destiny.
Yeah. Take that monstrous budget that they have spent, all the money that they have dumped into Captain Falcon America for whatever, probably now topping $500 million. And it's going to be an absolute failure at the box office. It's just going to stink up the box office. Take that, break it into some $15 million chunks and seed dozens of films of creators that are interested in doing something that they're passionate about, something that some idea that they have, whatever crazy idea that it is. Like, yeah, let them go out and make their movie that they're passionate about and make dozens of them. And you know what? You're not going to get, none of those movies are probably going to have $1.2 billion box office. They're not going to have that kind of money coming in, but that's okay. You only spent 15 million on it. If it goes out, it hits the theaters and you get a handful of those that bring in 40, 50 million, then you're good, right? All of these studios seem like they are chasing these monstrous paydays, but they're also taking on enormous risk with these films, putting this insane budgets behind them. Like, just stop doing that. Like, go out and find some creators who have a vision for something different and new, that's something they're passionate about, whatever that is, and start, backing up some of these smaller projects instead of just constantly chasing these just enormous blockbuster budgets. It's gotten so silly that, yeah, now we have giant movies like The Marvels and Captain Falcon coming out here in just a few weeks, just a little over a month from now, right? That are just the budgets are so insane that they are never going to be able to be profitable. Yeah, smaller pictures, small stuff. That's more of what I want to see. I want to see creators out there doing something different, something interesting.
I was going to ask you that I saw something. Does it say like Ubisoft lost like billions of dollars or something? Is that what I saw today, or which
Oh
other?
yeah, they lost a ton of money. I think all told they're down like 10.6 billion. I think it's insane how much they've lost.
I mean,
There was another story today as well, uh, about poor old, um, oh darn it, where did it go? I had the story up here. Uh, well, here's a Ubisoft one. Let's see. Let's see what I can share this with you. Just a sec. So here's one on Ubisoft. Um, Basically, yeah, their market cap dropped 85% in just this, in these past 4 years, from a market cap of 12.17 billion in January of 2001 to 1.78 billion in January of 2005. So that is insane. That's just a total collapse of their business for their market cap to drop that significantly.
it's just
And you can see there.
It stuns me that somebody could be in a company and make so many mistakes over and over again, and they don't stop making mistakes.
No, they've completely trashed their company. There's been some people that claim that, oh, this is all on purpose. They're trying to lower the value so they can sell out to somebody. I I have no idea. That sounds absurd. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That idea that they would just trash their company so that they could sell out. You can see the market value here having fallen over the past 4 or 5 years down to pennies of what it used to be. It was $83 something, or it was over $75. That's a percentage there. But it was, you know, worth this well over $75. And now their stock is trading at like 11.69. I mean, it's insane. They've just thrown away their business, and I think they are probably going to be bought up by someone very soon, because I mean, what else can you do? I
Nothing.
mean,
How can they survive?
yeah. The other thing that was the big story today, and I'm not able to find it here, but it was that the developers of kind of the big Sweet Baby Inc. game that set it all off, the Suicide Squad. Uh, what's the name of that studio? It's not Remedy. It was the other one. Why can't I find that story? Thought I had it here. Anyway, they had additional layoffs because their game has just collapsed so completely. They've laid off a bunch of people from various different parts, not just there's a bunch of people. Cosgrove said Rocksteady. That's it, not Remedy. Rocksteady. They've laid off a bunch of people, not just from small areas like customer support, but they've laid off quality assurance people. They've laid off designers. They've laid off people from all over the company. And what's hilarious is that this week, so if you're a PlayStation Plus member, you'd know you get 3 free games essentially that are added to your library every month. And people are furious about what's coming to PlayStation Plus this month, because it's 2 like remakes of old games and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and people are furious. They're like,
Nobody wants that game.
it's
Yeah.
2 remakes and a bad game that we don't want to play. This is it's like this is garbage. This is what you give us to start out 2025. I will not even add that to my library for free. I have no interest in playing that crap. Forget it. I will usually go PlayStation Plus. I'll just add everything that money that's for that month. Just throw it in my library. Maybe I'll want to play it eventually sometime. This, they can forget it. They're not getting my download. I have no interest in playing that game whatsoever. Not even for free. Ugh.
Yeah, I understand that. By the way, I've been looking. The fire thing in LA is crazy.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane. I'm genuinely there's no love lost here for California. I think most of that state is a disaster, especially the
Well,
the political
there
people
must be
that
some
run it.
good people.
But
There's some good people in
yeah,
California, and I don't wish them to go
no,
through this.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying is that as much as I could not care so much about the politics and some of the insanity that goes on in the state of California, for the people in the state of California, I'm genuinely terrified for what's going on, and I really I just
What
pray
happened?
for
How
everyone's
did this suddenly
safety.
become that there's so I was reading about it before, and I thought, okay, it's the wildfires that
So
sometimes they have, but this
yes,
looks like
so
This looks like something that I don't usually see, even amidst the usual wildfires.
Well, so I'm not entirely sure they know how it started just yet, but they have been having some epic storms there over the last couple of days, especially earlier today and into tonight, with enormous, really high winds. And so, with those really high winds, it has uh, ended up, just fueling these fires. Also, what fuels these fires, just interestingly enough, is the fact that they have a hands-off policy for all the forests there. They don't go in and properly manage them. I know all about this because I used to actually work for the Forest Service. And in California, they don't go in and manage the forest where they would go in and take out trees. They will go out and clean out the rubbish, all the stuff that builds up in the undergrowth. They don't go out and clean all of that out. So basically, when the fires start, there's tons of fuel there just waiting to fuel massive wildfires. So since they don't properly manage the forests in California, it causes all sorts of insanity. But yeah, this is just right outside LA. There's huge windstorms that are coming through, and it's just fueling these fires, pushing these fires. They're saying tonight, some of the winds could top 100 miles an hour. So it's getting absolutely wild out there. And if there's anyone out there, I know I know of a few people in the chat here. I know Adam and Argentum are out in California, in that area, not in the area of the fires, but in California. But if there's anybody who is in that area, I wish you well. I hope you can be safe. Obey any evacuation orders that you get. This is incredibly dangerous, and I just hope that everyone out there is safe. There's going to be a lot of property lost. There's going to be a lot of damage. And I just hope that
That's already
the
understood, but I just hope the
lives that
people
aren't lost.
themselves,
Yeah, yeah,
families and people, I just wish for their safety.
absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we laugh a lot of times at the kind of, some of the more snobby people in Los Angeles that exist there. But California is a place with a lot of people, and there's a lot of good people that live there. The fact that it's being run incorrectly by people, and maybe there's some annoying people there. Even the annoying people, I don't wish this upon them as
No,
much as they're annoying. I mean, and it's fine. I can say they're annoying. I don't want them, their entire towns to burn. You know what
no.
I'm
You don't
saying?
want anyone to lose their livelihood.
No, no,
Don't want
it's not what I
anybody to
would.
lose their lives. Certainly, we don't
No,
want them to lose their property. That's none of that is. We can have
no.
our arguments about politics and
Of
everything,
course, of course.
but yeah, we
Obviously.
want everyone to be safe, and we wouldn't want anyone to lose life, limb, property, anything like that.
A-
This is a tragedy. It's scary as hell. Oh yeah, there's a video. Yeah, you can see just right up next to all of those homes. That's terrifying. It really is terrifying, and I hope that people are fleeing. People are getting out and getting shelter, as best they can, because yeah, that's some really scary stuff.
Now, my friend in the Backyard TARDIS, my friend Nick, who is on the Quantum Leap streams and he's a friend of the channel, he lives in the Sacramento area. So sometimes they have wildfires there. And what he explained to me once, at least from his perspective, is that sometimes another issue exists, that there's sort of a local authorities and there's kind of the federal authorities.
Hmm.
Now, if you let the fire grow large enough, it suddenly becomes the responsibility of, let's say, the federal and not the state. So I hear he explained it to me, but what happens is sometimes people in the state will be like, let's just let it grow a little more and let them foot the bill. So because of the bureaucracy and who's paying for it, it actually is in the best interest of some people, as bad as it sounds, to let the thing grow so somebody else takes care of it. Uh, it's horrifying to think that sometimes because of these kind of bureaucracy and
Yeah.
politics, they let a fire grow. But that's the impression that he gave me, even if I didn't fully explain it right. That's what I think he was trying to tell me.
That
So,
kind of thing, actually, yes, that kind of thing can happen. In this case, though, I'm certain this was simply something that got out of hand very, very quickly, and the storms in the area, and just having more or less dry, you know, weather and stuff over there for quite some time now has not helped. So yeah, really scary stuff. If there's anyone out in that area, yes, please obey any orders to evacuate. I've already seen some videos of people in their homes with fire just like licking the edges of their yards and stuff, and I'm like, that's terrifying. If you've been sticking around that long, your chances of surviving that are slim. Like, yeah, you got to get out when you can. It's really scary. Yeah. What's this?
Finally, just to end it on a
Little more positive note.
little positive, yeah, they're saying there's a rumor that I guess was started by Jeff Snyder, the shill. Sorry, that basically he's a relatively harmless shill, but seems like somewhat of a shill. In any case, I guess they're saying that supposedly Marvel Studios are considering recasting T'Challa. There's a lot of community notes saying that this is really just a rumor with no basis and no nothing. I actually think that they should have recast him for the previous one.
They absolutely should have. Yeah, they're playing off of his death and using that to put a woman in the role instead
Was
cheap.
terrible.
It was
And
kind of
and you,
disgusting, honestly, especially knowing that Chadwick Boseman had asked for his part to be recast.
yes, he wanted his legacy to live, and they didn't honor that. When it comes to Letitia Wright, I didn't mind her in the movies. I just didn't think she was the right fit for to be a Black Panther.
No.
I think that they should have recast him. Now, maybe they will, maybe they won't. They also don't love Letitia Wright. There was something with her. She didn't cooperate with them when they wanted certain coup things to happen, and she said something they didn't like, and they did their usual cancellation thing. They had to keep her in this thing. They couldn't recast her because they were already filming it or are already at a late stage, but they already had issues with her then. It wouldn't surprise me if they got rid of her. Even when Wakanda Forever came out, just for the way they operate, I just thought that they would find a way to get rid of her. So maybe this would be getting rid of two birds with one stone. They push
Could
her
be.
aside, and if they even show her at all, or they just completely push her aside. Meanwhile, they recast and move forward. There are ways also in Wakanda Forever, if they do with all this weird multiverse crap, which I can't stand, they could make it seem like he had a kid at the end of that one, if you remember.
Hmm.
They could do something where the kid ages in some, I don't know what, you find a way to explain how he's aged. Now he's older. There's a guy, let's say in his 20s, they say this is T'Challa, or T'Challa Jr., whatever it is that they want to do. I don't know. Was he called T'Challa, the son of T'Challa, or no?
I don't even
He
remember.
probably was. You know
I
what?
struggled to get through that movie one
It was a
time.
difficult movie to get through. It certainly wasn't a good movie, but I'll say that I think that what they said was at the end is that he was T'Challa and he was the son of T'Challa. So if that's the case, do something. I don't know what, he came back, something happened, he aged, and now he's Black Panther. There has to be a way to get this done, and I would do it if I were them. Because they can't say it's him
Yeah.
anymore because they already killed him off. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how they
Yeah,
would bring him
yeah.
back. At this point,
Other than, I mean, if they are doing multiverse stuff, which does seem like they're going to be doing with Secret Wars and with
that's the only
the
way. That's
Doom
the only
movie,
way they could bring a different one into the fold,
yeah,
and I think
it would
that,
just be another universe's
right.
version
I
of
mean, it's
T'Challa.
stupid and annoying and bullshit. Sorry, Sean, but I still think that they should do it, just so we have, you know, and I actually there's a few really good actors that could step into this role.
Yeah,
They have options, and I hope that they do that.
yeah,
And I guess on that very positive note, let's just do some of those us saying goodbye and
yeah.
shouting out people. We had some technical issues, so some of these people have disappeared. I see Whalem03, Jeanette, Mur Rockstra, Pyromancer, Istophobos, of course. Thank you for the gifted membership that you gifted yourself.
Gift it to yourself. Yeah,
Erko De
wonderful.
Stefano, Jeanette, Joshua Calkins. Uh, oh, now I see myself. Finally, I am represented on screen.
There you are.
I see you too, Professor. I'm trying to think. Jeanette, Whalem, Dime Store Boudica. I don't really know what this is.
Dime Store Boudica, yeah.
Stephen Mack, Monero 12, Cosgrove. Today it's going to be
Yeah.
difficult, so if I miss people, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Argentum.
got some earlier ones from Rumble. We had Kivo 1961. Always joins us. Nice
Barbara
to see you,
Lawrence, Joshua
Kivo.
Calkins. Sorry, go on.
Bryce Acosta. Did you get Dude Bro Seth 420?
Dude Rose Stuff 420 does the nice cheers with
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Pizza Slayer, D Bud Martin joined us over there on Rumble. It's good to see you, D Bud. Wide Open 69, El Rafito 56, Chimefy, Candle Monkey. I like that name. That's fun. Candle Monkey. Yeah. Those are some earlier ones from Rumble. You seen any other ones, Price?
I let me see for a second if I see here. I think I said Whalem and Joshua Calkins and all the Jonathan Conroy I see.
Mm-hmm.
Marlo Sharondoff, I'm sure I saw here. Adam Gray, Barbara Lawrence, James Caserta, Mur Rockstra, I think I said. Obviously also thank you for the super chats, the people that gave. Let's
Yeah.
see.
We had a bunch of super chats today. We got several from the Dead Man. We got another from John Riker, Joshua Calkins. So yeah, thank you all for those super chats today. Very generous.
Yeah, really nice of everybody. I really appreciate it. I appreciate that you guys. This is just fun for us to do, and
Yeah.
I always like these kind of conversations that we have. And every time there's some new people listening, and it's just such a fun thing to look at the chat here and to have these conversations. It's great. I really enjoy it. And of course, if you're watching this and you're on Rumble, you should sign up for a subscription, a free one, or a premium paid one, but you can do the free one too. And if you're already there, if you can like this stream and follow us, that would be great. Or whatever other platform you may be watching and we may be on, you should like, subscribe, and do whatever you can there. Also, to Professor R2, he has a Rumble channel, he has a YouTube channel, he has a X account.
Yep.
You should follow him. He has a lot of great insights. And and I'm Price of Reason. You can follow, subscribe, or whatever it is. I'm different places as well. And I think that on that very positive note, want to wish everybody a good night, and all the people on the West Coast in LA a safe night. And
Yes.
hopefully,
Take care.
to take care of yourselves and your families, and hopefully these fire departments and police and all the authorities will be able to at least put out some of these fires or contain them or do whatever they can to help people.
Then you got the East Coast is buried in snow. So we got everybody
Total
it's all over. It's a great start to 2025. So yeah,
sure.
everybody stay safe out there.
Everybody stay safe in the snow and the fire, wherever you are. And you have a great night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
It wasn't able to end the stream, apparently.
Oh boy.
So
well, now we're
guys,
going to start our all-night Star Trek stream. So we can start reviewing it.
Stuck with us. Let me try another way. Let's do this.
We can start reviewing it with the first episode of Star Trek, The Cage.
The Menagerie, actually, isn't it?
Oh no, The Cage was the original pilot.
Oh, the Menagerie was later, and then when they rehashed it. Yeah, sorry.
The Menagerie. Yeah.
No, okay. I apologize for that. let me try it again. I'm going to try to end it. Let's see if that worked.
Nope. It's just me here now. Hi, everybody. We're having some technical difficulties.